plenty of nonsense in between.
Oh, look! Here comes our fearless producer!
Gwynn and Chris starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
Like, what clarity do you have regarding Joe Musgrove's status?
He's not going to participate in this series. We'll have more information coming later today, but he won't be in this series.
Is there a chance he could pitch again this postseason?
We'll just leave it at that for now. Yeah, he's not going to participate in this series, and we'll have more to come here shortly.
All right, there's the news, the latest from Mike Shildt as we kick off the calm before the storm. The day before the National League Divisional Series, it is Gwynn and Chris with you on San Diego's #1 sports talk station, 97.3 The Fan. Thank AJ Cassaville for his guest appearance there to open the show today, along with manager Mike Shildt. Speaking of the Padres skipper, we are hoping, as mentioned yesterday, to have him joining us on the show this afternoon. It would be in the 4 o'clock hour. Of course, there's a lot of things that can happen here. It is media day, etc. Workouts, lots of press conferences, a lot going on up in L.A. ahead of the beginning of the divisional series, which starts tomorrow right here on 97.3 The Fan, 5:38. And it'll be Yamamoto throwing the first pitch of the series.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully he won't throw many more after that.
That's true.
Hopefully it'll be a similar outing to what he had in Korea against the Padres.
Oh, do you actually...
To open the season, what the Padres got 5 runs off him in one inning. 5 Ernies. Do you know what an Ernie is?
My grandpa?
No, an earned run.
Yes,
he gave up 5 Ernies.
I figured.
In one inning, and the Padres
I have a
won
compilation
that game,
of his one inning
You do.
in Korea, and we'll play it at some point throughout the show because
We'll
he
listen
gave
to
up,
some
as
of his
Chris just said,
struggles.
5 runs.
Yeah, well, look, I wouldn't expect a quick 5 in Game 1 tomorrow, but I wouldn't put it past the Padres either. You know, they put 5 up there on Atlanta the other night. They had more 5-run innings than any team in baseball this year, the Padres did. It's one of the reasons why a lot of us are very excited about this series. You have to say everything with respect. And I personally, have never done anything other than respect my opponent, even if it's somebody I don't respect. I'm going to outwardly respect them. And the Dodgers are still all of that. But I just feel so good about this Padre ball club. I'm looking for holes. I'm looking for areas of concern. Obviously, Joe Musgrove's not going to pitch in this series, but Yu Darvish is. So, it's not exactly a disaster. It doesn't help. But you know what? Ha-Seong Kim's not playing either. And Donovan Solano is. So, look, this Padre team is built to take a hit like this. And, I think if everybody from the Padres does what I think they're capable of, what they're capable of, Tony said it yesterday, and I agree with him. I think the Padres have a better team. Does the better team always win? No. You know how we know this? 2 years ago, the Dodgers had the better team.
Yeah.
And they didn't win.
Last year, the Dodgers had a great team.
And they didn't win either.
Yeah.
So, look, it's still going to be about getting it done, getting some key hits and, some timely long balls and, playing defense and making plays.
Which is something that they've done all season long.
There's no reason to think that they're not going to do it now.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but it'll all get started tomorrow, and the first 2 will be up in L.A. Then we'll all come back here on Monday and get you ready for games 3 and 4. Of course, game 4, if necessary, next Tuesday and Wednesday. Speaking... by the way, Tony is not with us at the moment, but he is going to be joining us soon. He's up at Dodger Stadium. He is obviously there, involved in everything that's going on. He's down there on the field. He's talking with people. I believe there's an AJ Preller press gathering scrum, you like to call it.
Yes.
A scrum where he sits in the dugout and like 35 people sit around him.
Which is very uncomfortable.
It's really queer, yeah. And everybody's straining with their microphone like this to try to get to hear what he's going to say.
You know who's really good at it? Sammy Lev gets right
Sammy
in
gets
there.
He's
and he
got
also gets front row because Sammy Lev deserves front row.
Sammy Levitt is the master at that. Sharing kind of a funny story, when I used to hold my tape recorder, this happened especially when I covered the Lakers back in the day because they were all so tall.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Magic Johnson or somebody would be standing there. Magic Johnson, as I answered yesterday, right, on our Chris vs. the Fans. Magic Johnson would be standing there after a game. There'd be 7 or 8 people standing around him asking questions. And then you'd ask a question, and then you'd take your tape recorder because you wanted to record what he was going to say for your story, and you'd hold your arm up, and then he would keep talking.
Yeah.
And then he would keep talking.
No one knows the struggle of
Nobody
holding your
understands
arm up.
the struggle of a poor journalist holding the tape recorder up for 10 minutes.
That's like...
While Magic Johnson keeps answering the question, you're like, I can't hold my arm up any longer.
I think that's almost an Olympic sport because there
It
are
used to
certain people
happen.
that can do it and there are certain people that can't.
It used to happen to me all the
barely
time.
do
It used to happen to me all the time. So Tony's there, the AJ Preller thing. He's going to join us after that, and he'll be obviously in and out of the show. But it's also his right because it is his birthday. So
Yes,
we
it
are
is.
going to open with that and wish Tony obviously a very happy birthday today. I know there's no way he'd rather celebrate than being right there at Dodger Stadium in the middle of everything that's going on right now.
I mean,
this
he's a
is so-
baseball guy. He's done this his entire
Come
life.
on, this is so great. If you're a Padre fan, I mean, this is what we live for. This is, to be in the playoffs, to have an opportunity, and then to have it against your arch bitter rival, the Dodgers, who you just don't like, and it's going to be 4 or 5, hopefully 3, but 4 or 5 most likely of the tensest 3 hours of our lives watching these games, right? I mean, they're not going to be 9-1.
No.
They're going to be, 5-4, 2-1, 3-2, and, guys coming up and relievers trying to not. Anyway, it's going to be something. This is why you love it. So, I'm excited. I think everybody's excited. I'm very confident. I think most of the Padre fans are confident. There are still plenty of holders. By the way, Scrape, I did get my camera operating, so you can put me on the screen there. Hi, everybody. But yeah, I know there's some Padre fans, some holdovers out there, are still waiting, quote, for the other shoe to drop, or something always happens to us. Woe is us. We're the Padres. Something as terrible is bound to happen. Musgrove got hurt. Kim got hurt. Something terrible is going to happen. You know what? That has been true for 50 years. I mean, I can't remember how many times did the old football team that used to play here. You remember those guys?
The Chargers.
How many times did they host the Jets in playoff games that
Way
they were
too many.
absolutely
Better
no
than?
way they could lose?
Yeah.
And they lost. And I can go back to being
Did Chad Pennington beat them one year?
Everybody beat them one year. I mean, come on. It was unbelievable, those games they would lose to the Jets. We know the Marlon McCree game. We know, many of us know, in my generation, even going back to 1981, after they, or 82, or not. I didn't turn it back properly. The year is 1980, when they were home for the Raiders, the wild card Raiders, in the AFC Championship game. Again, a team that, the rivalry, everything was right there in front of the Chargers on their home field with Fouts and Jefferson and Joyner and, Muncie, and no way they could lose. And the next thing I looked up, it was like 21-0 Raiders. And I'm like, and the Raiders would go on and not only win, but win the Super Bowl. So I get it. Look, San Diego, I get it that you're scared to death that something terrible is going to happen again, or many of you are. But the bottom line to all of that is none of what happened then or even last year or 2 years ago has anything to do with this group and guys that are playing for the Padres now. All that stuff lives rent-free in our head. We remember it all. Pretty sure Tyler Wade doesn't remember losing the 80 championship game to the Raiders, nor does he care. I don't think Manny Machado is too concerned about the Marlon McCree fumble. I don't think that – maybe, but I doubt it. I don't think Fernando Tatis is thinking about Nate Kading, wide left or whatever his field goal went to lose the game to the Jets. These things happen to us. We remember them. But this team doesn't, and they have no reason to. So it's going to come down to whether this is honestly my thing. It's going to come down the next 3 weeks, hopefully, 3-4 weeks, to whether or not it is our time. And I believe it's about time that it is our time. We've certainly waited long enough. We have paid enough dues. We have gone through every loss imaginable in every way imaginable. Great teams, bad teams, good teams, bad luck, good luck, holy roller. On and on. People could, send me tweets or texts today about other crazy things that have happened to the Padres.
Let's not bring it up anymore.
That's my point. This is our series here right now.
Yeah.
And I think the Padres have a great chance to win it.
I think in 2022, the team was obviously stacked with superstars, but we didn't feel the same way. This team this year is a completely different team than we've seen since we started working here, Chris.
It felt like we were on a good roll 2 years ago. We got on a hot streak, but we didn't have as good of a team. We just didn't.
And the dominance down the stretch for the Padres and winning game after game. They didn't lose more than 2 games in a row in the second half.
This team went 43-19 to finish the season and add 2 more wins to that against the Braves. I feel great about it. Does it guarantee victory? Of course not. The Dodgers are pretty formidable. And if they beat the Dodgers, the Phillies or the Mets are going to be pretty formidable. And if they beat them, then whoever comes from the American League, they're going to be good too.
I'm telling you, I believe in the Padres. I do. I believe in the Padres can beat any of these teams in the playoffs.
There's no question.
The one team I do not want them to run into right now is the Mets.
The Mets are the only team that have a similar magic to the Padres.
It is so weird because they were so bad to begin the year.
Yes, they were, but that was certainly on display last night. Pete Alonso, are you kidding? A 3-run homer with 1 out in the 9th inning to turn it all around. And the Mets beat the Brew Crew 4-2 to advance against the Phillies. So, yeah, that's on the other side. We'll talk a little bit about that game as we go along.
Do you want to hear the Pete?
I do kind of want to hear this.
Right here.
I watched it on TV last night. I kind of jumped halfway off my couch. I didn't.
For the polar bear?
I love the polar bear.
I just love big moments.
There we go.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Freelick back at the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career. Pumps his fist as he rounds second. It's a 3-run homer. He's given the Mets a 3-2 lead. They all pour out of the dugout.
That was pretty good.
Wow.
That was pretty good.
That was really good, man.
I love chills.
I got some hair. See that? Hey, get up there. Hey, come on. No, that was a good call right there. I mean, it came out of nowhere. Devin Williams is on the mound. This is an answer to your thing about Robert Suarez and the Padres and, can we trust our closer? Yes, you can trust your closer, but it doesn't mean that somebody can't hit a home run off them.
Totally.
And last night it happened, and, Josh Hader lost the game the other day in the big spot for the Astros. So,
you know what Robert Suarez has done in the playoffs?
Shut down so far this year. Shut down so far this year. All right, so the Mets move on. That was a great call. That was Howie Rose.
That was good.
Howie Rose on, I think they're WFAN or maybe.
No, it's, I have the call letters. WHSQ. I have no idea what that is.
Really, I don't know what that one is either. Anyway, the Mets moved on. I'm sure our guy Frank Marchese was jumping up and down wildly
sure he was.
On that one. But we're going to be doing our own jumping up and down here in the next few days. I am sure of it. All right, the show today, Tony joins us in and around everything he's doing. Bryce Miller, San Diego Union Tribune. He always puts things in excellent perspective, and he will have a chance to do that. Kirk Kenny will talk a lot about the history of the Padres. A lot of this stuff. Kirk and I were at the 1984 World Series together practically.
Goodness.
Yeah, we can go back, and Kirk's been out at the stadium and things that he's seen and heard, and we know we love talking to Kirk. So
I think
he'll
I
be
have a
on.
clip from that game.
Strasburg ready to go.
that clip there is from 1884.
I was gonna say.
No, that's not 1984. That's 1884. And as we said, Mike Shildt, hopefully in the 4 o'clock hour. In and around all that, Daily Gambit, Christopher the Fans, Big Five, countdown on a Friday. Man, I am really excited. I'm fired up. It's time to get rolling. And, you live all year for this time. So let's enjoy it. Let's embrace it. And let's hope the Padres do something about it. Gwynn and Chris underway for a Friar Friday on San Diego's #1 sports talk station, 97.3 The Fan.
Looking for the
All right, welcome back to Gwynn and Chris. I think somebody once said somewhere, Scraby, that not everything can be wine and roses. We start off the second segment of today's show with some unfortunately bad news.
Yeah.
Concerning Joe Musgrove. Now, 15 minutes ago, we heard Mike Shildt say that, he's not going to pitch in the series against the Dodgers. A.J. Cassaville asked him if he might pitch beyond that. And Mike Shildt was very vague and said, well, let's just leave it at that.
We're going to give you an update here soon.
We're going to give you an update as to why he said, let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
According to this tweet.
Kevin Acee has tweeted out the unfortunate news that Joe Musgrove will have Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
So that's a huge bummer.
That's a huge blow. It's a huge bummer. There's absolutely a question. It's a downer.
Feel for Joe. He's worked so hard to get
feel
back
so bad
multiple
for
times
Joe.
this
Right.
year.
2 years in a row he's had to deal with the elbow. And now, Tommy John surgery normally means not only not pitching in these playoffs, he's not pitching next year. That's a year normally.
Yes,
Even if you come back a
2026.
little sooner, what's he going to come back in August? If that, September?
I don't even know. I
would think he's probably out all of next year.
Yeah.
So, that's really that's lousy news, certainly. But right now the Padres. This is kind of hardcore, Scraby. But if you're the Padres, you have to shake it off. You have to shake it off and say, hey, this is too bad, but we got work to do. We got work to do.
They have options, which is a great thing.
That's true. All right, our option is to pitch the ball here to the excellent San Diego Union Tribune columnist, our friend Bryce Miller, nice enough to join us today. Bryce, how are you on this day, the calm before the storm?
Well, sitting here at Dodger Stadium, the Padres are just walking onto the field for a workout. But it seems like there's storm today, too, with the Joe Musgrove news. I mean, It's not – I heard your lead in there. It's not surprising, unfortunately. He was on the IL for elbow-related, issues twice this year. And just the way that whole scene unfolded and Joe previously talking about he dealt with discomfort. It didn't take very long to connect some dots. As I look over, I know Kevin Acee's in the middle of this, but Musgrove's meeting with the media, I think, right now. And so he'll have more details on that and Joe's perspective on it all. But it's just unfortunate for him. There's not a harder worker, somebody who cares more about the Padres in that city, being an El Cajon, Grossmont guy, and working to come back and pitching as well as he did. It's something that's, when is the guy going to catch a break kind of feel to it for sure. But knowing Joe Musgrove, he will dive into rehabbing from this thing like no other. He has one gear in terms of preparation, getting ready, being at his best, when possible. And a lot of feelings about it as you kind of unpack everything.
Yeah, it's a kick to the gut. It is. But, as I said, the Padres unfortunately don't have time right now. As a team, they got to regroup, and I know they will. I just feel let's look at the series as best we can in the wake of this news. Bryce,
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like there's nothing is ever guaranteed in sports. The Dodgers are so formidable, and they could come in and wipe you out, if everything went their way. But this Padre team, to me, is just built for this moment, and they've been building up to this moment. And I don't feel any reason other than the fact that they should be very confident heading into it that they can win.
Yeah, and that's without Joe Musgrove. This is the most complete team the Padres have arguably ever have, and I don't even know if it's much of an argument. The rotation is still deep, proven. When Dylan Cease is your number 3 option in a wild card series, and Yu Darvish is in the bullpen for that series, and they're both available when you start playing in the division series. That it's pretty obvious the pitching depth that you have, depth that they haven't had before. The bullpen at the trade deadline, the moves to get Jason Adam and Tanner Scott, and there's depth beyond that. One of the best bullpens they've ever had, top to bottom, and the best contact team in baseball. Offensively, they, really understood their identity. I was talking to David Peralta in the clubhouse a little bit ago, and the philosophy is this team collectively figured out who it was. They weren't going to, as a group, hit a bunch of home runs. They were talking about Victor Rodriguez, kind of his motto is we don't need to score a ton of runs. We need to score one more than the other team. And so they've kind of built that philosophy about baton passing baseball offensively. There's depth in the bench. They are more than up to play a Dodger team in this series, and they have the tools to do it. But to your point, the Padres were the best team in baseball after the All-Star break. The Dodgers were the second best team in baseball after the break. And Shohei Ohtani, especially offensively, changes everything. He gets hot in a series like this. The Padres aren't careful in how they attack and approach him. The series could be over quickly. It could go any direction. I think that's what makes this potentially terrific.
Talking to Bryce Miller of the San Diego Union Tribune here on 97.3 The Fan, and I wanted to talk about the differences between, because Chris came into the show with some fans are still thinking the other shoe's going to drop for a San Diego team at some point, but we were saying this team is much different from the teams of the past. So you were around both teams, the 2022 team and this team. What do you think is different about this team?
I think so. We're talking a lot about Joe Musgrove, but he is one of the leaders on this team, whether he's throwing a baseball or not. But he said in a press conference the other day, he was asked about the differences from 2022 and this year. And in 2022, that team goes to the National League Championship. But paraphrasing, Joe kind of nailed it. He said that team got hot at the right time, and it had this feeling of, we're not sure how we got here, but let's just ride it. Let's ride the momentum and ride the wave. So this team had an identity and a plan from day one, and everybody was on the same page in terms of that plan. And a little bit of a microcosm of that is what we just talked about with what their approach is offensively. That extends to almost everything they do, and I think the tone setter in that was Mike Shildt. From not only from day one, from before day one. He traveled all over the world to meet with players individually. And he had mentioned the other day that he asked them what's important to each player and what are their non-negotiables. And then they tried to weave all those together to understand what was important to each player and then understood how that did or didn't fit into a bigger team approach. So as Musgrove pointed out, this team had an identity and a plan from day one. It didn't just rely on its talent, and maybe potentially in 22, especially with a player like Juan Soto, there might have been more of that with that team. And if I have that choice, I pick 2020.
Bryce Miller is with us from the San Diego Union Tribune. I know, Bryce, one of the things that you do so well is go out and spend quality time and sit-down time with some of the people you like to write about. And you do columns about. And one of the latest you've done is a sit down with Sheil Seidler, the widow of Peter Seidler. And, we talked about this on the roundtable yesterday, but the Padres do seem to have a little bit of a magical belief in winning this thing for Peter Seidler. And, guys have talked about it all year. We all understand that doesn't guarantee anything, but it does seem to have galvanized this squad. Tell us a little bit about, your visit with her and the Peter Seidler factor on this squad, on this team. Oh, that was one of my favorite questions I've ever asked. We lost Bryson Miller, unfortunately. Well, I don't know that I can duplicate that question, Scraby, but we'll try to get Bryce back.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah,
you're
I'm
there.
not sure what happened.
Well,
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, technology is, it's much better, but we're still not 1,000% there. I basically asked about your sit down and your visit with Shildt Seidler, Peter Seidler's widow, Bryce, and his effect on, how this team is kind of galvanized around his passing.
Yeah, first of all, it was just really eye-opening and heartening to hear her explain. I mean, I think as people who follow this team or fans of the Padres or the city of San Diego, there were things that were clear, right? The investment, the effort, the contracts, just changing the narrative about Padres baseball, what was and wasn't possible. To hear so many of her stories and understanding how he approached everything he did and how that translated to the Padres, I think gave a fuller understanding of a man who in some ways was really complex, but in other ways is just a person, just a human being, very simple and very relatable and very approachable. And I asked her at some point, how did he have the capacity to meet all these strangers and talk to everyone and make it feel genuine and unrushed? And she goes, it's a Peter magic trick I can't explain, and I think that summed it up pretty well.
Well, Bryce, you always sum things up very well. We appreciate you carving out a little time for us today out at Dodger Stadium. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you back here in San Diego next week for the for Game 3, the clincher, I'm hoping, on Tuesday.
All right. See you then.
All right, there he goes. Thank you, Bryce. Bryce Miller from the San Diego Union-Tribune. He does a really nice job on those kind of articles.
Getting people to open up is not
and
easy.
they open up a little bit. Yeah, it's hard to do, but he does a great job of it. I'm looking forward to seeing that story in the paper.
Yeah, he said it should be up shortly, if not already.
If it's online somewhere, yeah, but I'm sure it'll be in the paper tomorrow. Scrappy.
Oh yeah,
I'm still old style. I'll wait till the paper arrives on my doorstep.
You said on Wednesday, you're like, you know what, Tony? I was looking for the runners in scoring position in the paper's box score, and I let it go.
I love the newspaper, Scraby. I can't.
Do you not know? Do you wait to get your information from the newspaper?
No, I already know everything, but I still like to read the newspaper. I can't. It's just part of my DNA. So, all right, we'll take a quick time out here. We got a lot coming up. Hopefully Mike Shildt in the 4 o'clock hour. Tony should be hopefully with us soon. One way or the other.
I guess Joe is speaking right now.
Yeah,
too,
so Musgrove's talking right now. If you just tuned in, it's a Tommy John surgery now for Joe Musgrove. So, yeah, certainly no Joe in this series, and probably an injury that will cost him the 2025 season as well. But with that bit of down news, I expect the Padres to use it as something else to galvanize them moving forward. That's what they've done a great job of all year. The passing of Peter Seidler is an example of it. And I think they'll try to use this as best they can to try and beat L.A. More Gwynn and Chris coming up.
Gwynn and Chris.
right, welcome back to Gwynn and Chris. 2:41 is the time. Scrappy, could you bring the music down for just a second? Thank you very much, because with that,
What the heck?
in the background, it's hard for me to sing this. Happy birthday to you. We better stop. He's not going to like this.
Happy birthday to you.
He's not going to like it. He's not going to like it.
Happy
Scrappy.
Sing it.
birthday. Okay, I'm done.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna sing it, it can't be the Marilyn Monroe version. That's not really.
Mr.
Gwynn
President
Jr.
It can't be that version.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
You guys
right.
are the second set of folks who sang "Happy Birthday."
Saying to you
Who
today.
were the first?
It was my agent John Boggs decided he was going to sing.
He
Happy
sang
Birthday
to you
me,
today,
and
too.
It was also not great either.
It was also
but I
Marilyn
do-
Monroe type.
I appreciate the sentiment though. Thank you,
Well,
fellas.
everybody wishes Tony Gwynn Jr. a happy birthday as he picks things up with us from Dodger Stadium. And Tony, obviously the series and the excitement is tempered a little bit for the moment with this Joe Musgrove news. I know you're just down there. I imagine Joe's amazingly disappointed, but if I know him the way I think I know him, he's probably pretty determined as well to make sure that he gets through this latest bump in the road, or this is a big bump, but you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, his eyes welded up a couple of different times while, having to face the media. It's a pretty significant tear, it sounds like, according to him. And it sounds like he kind of knew this was a part of the risk when he was down and rehabbing that whole time. It was a risk worth taking for him. As he said, it was almost just a matter of time. And I think the thing that he was so disappointing and it was heartbreaking listening to him talk about it was the fact that he won't be able to finish this with his teammates. He made mention that this will be the last. That last start would be one of the last times he gets to play with some of these guys on this team. And so, if you know Joe, man, you know that this genuinely hurts. It genuinely hurts. Not because his arm hurts. Not necessarily because he's got a ton of rehab ahead of him. But simply because he won't have a chance to lace them up with this group for the rest of this year. And to come this far and to have it happen to him the way it has, man, it's tough. I don't think there's another word to really describe it. It ain't even my arm, but it felt like it was listening to him talk about it today and get emotional about it.
It's too bad. It is, because nobody represents the Padres to us in San Diego like Joe Musgrove represents the Padres to us. And you bring up something very important, too, that we don't all think about. This whole team is playing its last bunch of games together, right? Because this team will never exist again under these exact same circumstances. There's got to be player movement in the offseason and, guys coming in and out. So this group, which has built the bond it has, and the way Musgrove worked his way to come back and be part of this group, and then to just mow down 11 straight hitters the other night and be right in the middle of delivering a series clinching win, and then have that ripped away from him. Yeah, it's tough. And
yeah, man.
We all feel for Joe right now, and I imagine 2025 has got to be lost at this point as well. So that's that's a long time. I think that's the thing that might hurt the most for a lot of these guys when they get the Tommy John news. I mean, that's just a long road. Even though it may not be a really difficult road, it's just a long time. And you think, man, am I gonna do for over a year?
And the thing that stood out was that's the least of his concerns. He knows.
Yeah.
He's built to do the rehab part. Like he really is. Like he is so good at compartmentalizing that segment of time and just going one day at a time. He's really, really good at that. But that wasn't his focus. His focus was the fact that he won't be able to do it with this group again. And it was I used the word heartbreaking, but it truly was tough to see him have to face the media and talk to him, knowing the type of hurt. I told you guys yesterday when you asked me, Scraby, what were my thoughts when I was interviewing him? I told you.
Yeah.
I didn't have I could feel it in his in his spirit. I could see it in his face as he was talking. Even though he had glasses on, he was smiling. There was a sense of concern, or he just knew already. And that's what I sensed as I was interviewing him after the game. That's ultimately why I ended up cutting that interview short, because I could just feel it being harder and harder for him to, keep having to answer questions knowing that he had all those thoughts going through his mind.
Yeah, I mean, credit to him, though. Injured players don't do interviews.
They don't have to.
They don't have
right?
to. And he was trying to celebrate, and he stepped in. He did an interview, and I love Joe Musgrove. He's a great
We all
dude.
should. I mean, we often are having these conversations about, guys and effort, and this is a dude that truly, truly, truly loves each and every one of his teammates. He truly invests his own time into younger guys on this team. He invests in, helping a guy like Dylan Cease acclimate himself in not only the team but the city of San Diego. Like, this is a
Didn't Dylan live in his?
He did. I'm sure he
back.
stayed with him at least in the beginning. I mean, this is a dude that is, in my opinion, like he is the best representative in terms of what it means to be an unbelievable team, not just a good teammate, an unbelievable teammate, and be a baller on the field.
Well, it's bad news. There's no question. It's a bit of a kick for the Padres to take. But, Tony, they got to, pick up from the bootstraps and go back to work because the Dodgers aren't going to care tomorrow.
They don't care.
No, and I think the Padres, this is my feeling, the way this team's done it all year, and I think they're going to use this as just give them a little bit more motivation, say, hey, we're going to galvanize even closer together and make sure we win this for Joe because he cares and we care that much. I think that's the best way to look at it, and I think that's the way they will look at it.
Listen, I don't know if they'll use it as motivation or not, but I do know that they won't bat an eye. They'll deal with the loss of not having Joe, but they'll turn the page. This isn't the first injury that they've had this season that was a big one, and they have managed to figure it out. And I know Joe expressed to me that he feels that this ball club is in a good spot to be able to still get the job done. And so I imagine everybody in that locker room feels the same exact way. And this is going to be a terrific matchup, with or without Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Tony's at Dodger Stadium. He and Jesse will have the call of Game 1 tomorrow night, starting a little bit after 5:30. It's the day off, calm before the storm, but now things have got a little stormy with this Joe Musgrove news. Tony, arriving in L.A., I got, for some reason, I don't know why, the San Diego Union, I still get the paper. Scrappy loves to make fun of me for this.
We've talked more about the newspaper today than we have in years.
Well, we had Bryce Miller on, and he happens to work for a newspaper,
so
that might be one reason why.
In the newspaper tomorrow.
That's right, I am.
Even though I should promote that his article is online about Shield Sidelines.
Well, the rest of you can go read it now. I will wait to read it with my morning, bowl of yogurt tomorrow.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, Chris. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Thank you. But for some reason, what I'm getting to here is the Union Tribune also gave me a free copy without me even asking of today's LA Times. I'm not quite sure why that was. So I was able to go through their sports section. Yeah, well, you're booing the whole paper? I mean,
booing the whole paper?
That seems like a calculated act.
First of all, I used to work for the LA Times, so I don't appreciate you booing my former employer. Second of all, it was great because I could go through their sports page and read all of their coverage from the Dodger perspective of this series. And one of the things I saw in there was Teoscar Hernandez not popping off in any way. I'm not trying to create something. But he said, no, we wanted the Padres to beat the Braves. We think this is the best series. This is what you play for is getting to play guys like this. Evan Phillips said, they beat us a couple of years ago, so certainly, that's going to have something to do, in the back of the minds of us. So, I think the Dodgers are their perspective. The other thing that they said, Dave Roberts kind of referred to in one of the articles, Tony, was that the Dodgers may have taken the Padres too lightly 2 years ago, and they're not going to make that same mistake this time.
Yeah, I believe that.
I do. I believe that too, but I just think that serves notice to the Padres that they're going to have to bring what they always bring, and we'll see if the Dodgers can match them, because that's one of the areas that the Dodgers feel like they came up short 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of things that the Dodgers are weighing in terms of their approach in these type of series, right? It hasn't gone well the last 2 years. In 22, it was the Padres, and I think they have been very public about taking this team too lightly. And I think more than anything, the regular season served them notice that they certainly can't roll into this series taking it lightly. I mean, the Padres, for the first time in a while, really dominated the season series. So that alone will already have their antennas up, and now all of a sudden you've lost 2 NLDSs after having byes. It would be silly for the Dodgers to come in here any other way than at their very, very best, at least from a focus standpoint.
Let's hope that they do it anyway.
Wouldn't mind that at all.
They have my okay to come in and take the Padres lightly.
Take them lightly, please.
Here was another thing that was interesting, and I wanted to point this out. This series could very well come down to one matchup. And here's the matchup that it could come down to. Shohei Ohtani facing Tanner Scott. I bring this up because in the LA Times today, again, they talked about a bunch of stuff, but they pointed out that Tanner Scott is the one guy that has kind of had Shohei Ohtani's number. Shohei Ohtani's 1 for 9. He struck out 3 times against Tanner Scott, but in the pennant clinching game, the division clinching game the other night, last week, Shohei got him. That was his first hit against him. So I would believe that if Shohei Ohtani's coming up in a big spot late in the game, Tanner Scott's going to come in to face him.
I have no doubt.
Whoever wins those may win this thing, right? I mean, it could come down to one thing.
It could. I mean, it would have to. I mean, baseball circumstances would have to line up for this full series to come down to just that matchup. But the numbers certainly say, dealing with Ohtani, the left-handed on lefty matchup is where you want to go. Tanner Scott has good numbers. I actually saw the heat map on those at bats, and the one pitch that that Ohtani got was up and away, and so from that standpoint, he knows how he wants to attack him, and so we'll see that. Certainly the scoreboard is going to dictate a lot of that in terms of those matchups and who's going to be in and who's not going to be in, but. It's a part of it. This is Ohtani's first playoff appearance. Never been here before. So
Tony's throwing that out there 2 days in a row. He wants to make sure that Shohei somehow knows it going in.
It's his first. I think because we oftentimes are thinking about Shohei and just kind of we forget that he was on the Angels, who never made the postseason. And so that could be two things. That could be he's going to fill the weight, or that could mean that he's going to rise to the occasion. There are multiple scenarios in each of these, so it should be interesting for sure.
All right, we got an hour in, but we got a lot of good stuff coming up for you. More Gwynn and Chris, hours 2, 3, and 4. Mike Shildt hopefully ahead. And get you ready for Padres Dodgers on 97.3 The Fan. game show until a moment ago. Now I hope you get your butt wiped again.
Whoa, that means something else.
It's time to get you up to speed on all things sports.
Yes!
With plenty of nonsense in between.
Oh, look! Here comes our fearless producer!
Gwynn and Chris starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm devastated about, not being able to finish what we started. But, I'm not all that concerned about the work or the rehab and, the time off. I know how to work hard. It's just a matter of, coming to grips with that. This is it for me.
Did they tell you how significant the tear was? Like, was it a full tear and give you a time?
I mean, it's pretty good. Yeah, enough to where I feel like I can't throw a ball. So.
Did you know right away when you came off the mound that it was probably that bad? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been dealing with it for a while, and everyone's got some kind of tears and some damage in the UCL. I was told back in the middle months of the summer that, that there was some damage there and that it was kind of a matter of time. And, this seemed like something that I could manage physically. I felt like I was capable of throwing still. I didn't feel like anything, as extreme as, a UCL injury. But over the last few weeks, it was getting, a little more intense. And then, obviously, in that last game, it was a pretty drastic jump from, like, the third to the fourth inning. I felt decent in the first couple innings, and velo stuff was still there. I think I remember after the third coming in and feeling, like, significantly tighter and put some heat on it, tried to go back out, and then, that entire fourth inning was a struggle. I was just trying to get it over the plate and get out of the inning and, reevaluate from there. But, yeah, I think I was pretty clear. I didn't, necessarily know it was a UCL injury, but it was something that I hadn't felt before, and to the point where, obviously, I don't think that's the first time in my career I've had to walk off the mound. So, it was pretty intense for me.
Tommy John surgery for Joe Musgrove as we kick off hour number 2 with some news that certainly shakes up the Padres heading into their Dodger-Padre matchup in the NLDS, which starts tomorrow. Chris Ello, Tony Gwynn Jr. is at Dodger Stadium, and Mr. Scraby's alongside. Tony celebrating his birthday today. We won't mention that too many more times over the next couple of hours. Did you see we're going to get to Padres and everything. I know Mike Shildt is hopefully going to be joining us. We're expecting him in the 4 o'clock hour, so sit tight for that. We got a lot of other things going on. What'd you think of the Mets thing last night, though, Tony? Did you watch Alonso? I mean, that was something, I got to say.
That was awesome. That was awesome. It was just a great baseball game, great piece of hitting. And I know, listen, John Boy is great. He's got already got these clips out, basically trying to make it. Well, he's saying that Williams was tipping.
Really?
I would like you guys to go and check it out for yourself. And I just explained it to you from a hitter's standpoint, how I see it. The tip is supposedly partly the lowness of his glove versus changeup and fastball. Higher on changeup, lower, or higher on fastball, lower on changeup.
And where he holds it before he starts his
where he comes
windup?
set.
Okay.
Where he comes set.
Okay.
But it is so minuscule. Now from Twitter, from Instagram, from YouTube, from Twitter, when you look at it, it's zoomed in, so it seems like it's a lot more space that you can tell. But in real time, from the distance the hitter is 60 feet, 6 inches. It would be hard to be able to distinguish that little bit of space between fastball changeup. Now, there's a couple other things on there. I think he may be flaring a little bit when he goes into the changeup, but they don't show what he's doing on the fastball. So he could be doing the same thing. Either way, I thought it was just a phenomenal game, and I would say it was a phenomenal piece of hitting by Pete Alonso. I mean,
how can they try to take it away from you when you go the other way?
That's what I'm saying. Like not only going the other way, but he went the other way on a 3-1 changeup away. Like,
I know.
3-1. Everybody and their mom is looking to go left, in the right-handed hitter, looking to go left center, dead center, trying to get it loose on a baseball. This dude backed up the changeup and hit it on a line to right field. You know how, the changeup could have been a little bit lower. It was a little bit elevated, But my gosh, if a pitcher makes a 3-1 pitch on that spot, I would say a high percentage, 80% of the time, you're getting what you want there. But it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal by all of them. I mean, Lindor's at bat to lead that bad boy off. He punches Vientos on a high fastball. Clearly, he didn't get the tipping conversation.
He missed out.
I think it was Nimmo who ends up lacing a ball in the right field.
Yeah.
On a changeup. It was a good piece of hitting on his part. And then Pete Alonso, man, like 3-1, got to. And I think the other thing is that, the book is, what Williams wants to do is change up his best pitch. So I'm not going to say that it didn't come down to tipping, but I don't know. I think that would have been a tough sight. And he's got some other things in there that kind of fill in the blanks that makes you think it could be tipping, but I'm gonna say it wasn't.
I gotta give Pete Alonso a lot of credit, and
I'm
you
just
gotta
saying
give the
that's
Mets
just straight up good hitting.
The Mets are going to play the Phillies, and I don't have time to break down that series because we got our own to worry about. I'm telling you what, the Phillies better play well because the Mets have a little magic just like the Padres do.
I will say I do think it's kind of cool, though, that in the actual NLDS you get a bunch of division rivals matching up against one another. The only one that isn't is the Yankees-Royals. I mean, even Cleveland-Detroit, division rivals. Obviously, L.A.-San Diego. You got Philly-New York. I think that is just great theater.
Should be good.
These teams know each other so well.
And all 4 games tomorrow, right? You got all 4 of them. The Padres and Dodgers are last on the list. Starting at 5:38 with Tony and Jesse's call on 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile. And you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. So use their savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch. What's the feeling of the Padres, if we can take away Musgrove for a minute, Tony? Just how'd you categorize things heading up to L.A.?
I didn't ride with them. I rode by myself. My wife and I drove up. But just seeing these guys, kind of filtering out as they got ready for their BP, they look loose, man. This is a confident bunch, man. We talked. Jerickson spoke before the game. He highlighted the fact that, the difference. Because he's been here. He's one of the few guys that's been here for all 3 of these matchups, 20, 22, and this year. And, all different circumstances, right? 20, they didn't have enough pitching. They couldn't get there. 22, they actually beat them. And 24, and he said the same thing. He pretty much says we're more experienced. We've been through this before. And, we're a more confident bunch than we've ever been. And so, Jerickson, I think is one of the voices that speaks for the entire locker room. Having been in there for the last couple whether it was clinching the wild card spot or winning that first series, that wild card series, a lot of the things that he says are repeated throughout that locker room. So when he says that this team is more experienced, he also talked a little bit about the intensity because the Dodgers have noticed certainly that those games have been more intense. And I just think when you get 2 good teams together like this, that's exactly what you should expect. So this Padre group is loose. I think they're confident. I think unlike in the past, prior to 22, there was a kind of that's the Dodgers over there kind of feel. Not anymore, man. These 2 are equal heavyweights looking to take each other out.
Well, it's I mean, this is it. This is what we all can't wait for we don't get this all the time. You'd like to think that every year it comes down to something fun like this. It doesn't. We don't get guaranteed this kind of matchup. So to have it and be on the eve of it all beginning, it's awesome. Tony Gwynn Jr. is there at Dodger Stadium. Scraby's over here.
Yes.
And tomorrow we should mention that Ben and Woods are going to be at AleSmith for a viewing party.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to drop by.
Oh, yeah?
And make an appearance.
Okay.
But, if I do that, it'll take all of the attention away from Ben and Woods.
That's true. You don't
because everybody will flock to me.
That's true. You don't want everybody flocking to you, Chris.
Yeah, that's kind of disrespectful. So,
Isn't it disrespectful? So I'm going to say problem.
Every time you walk into Petco, you go, "Look at me! Look at me, everybody!"
In fact, I normally walk into Petco, and the first place I go is to the public address announcer's booth and just grab the microphone and just yell it to everybody.
Here.
That's what I do.
No, but they're actually going to be doing a broadcast live and a viewing party the broadcast is from 2:30 to 4:30, and they're going to get you ready for the San Diego-LA playoff game. AleSmith 394 Pale Ale is the official rally pint of the playoffs. Watch all of the San Diego postseason action at the AleSmith Tasting Room in Miramar with game day specials on 394 and more. Root for the hometown team with other fans while watching the game with sound. I'm going to come back to that in a second. That's Saturday from 2:30 to 4:30 at AleSmith in Miramar. You get to meet all the guys, too. But with sound, I think, is very important, Chris, because you cannot watch important games without the sound of the game. Like during a regular season, you can have a Major League Baseball game on.
Well, you're talking about going to a viewing party. You want to hear what's going on.
I want to hear the bat. I want to hear the crowd. I want to hear all of that. So they're going to be able to play that for you as well.
Tony, what's the atmosphere like at Dodger Stadium for a playoff game? For those who haven't really been to Dodger Stadium for a playoff game, we know what it is here in San Diego. It's off the chain. L.A. has been known for their laid-back ways, but I know they can get loud. Give me just a scouting report on on that and what the Padres are looking at.
Well, I mean, it's very similar. I mean, I think once you get to the postseason, I mean, unless it's a place that hasn't had any postseason like games, I just think the level of we talked a lot about the level of focus for the players and the umpires. I think there's a certain amount of level of focus for fans, man. At least that's what I noticed in the series, the previous series at home. I noticed it all of postseason in 22. Like, people aren't there for the social event no more. Maybe this brings out the actual baseball fans and people who want to see a good competition, right? Because, L.A. is very much now in 22 when we came here. Padres lost game 1. It was extremely loud. Game 2, it was quiet. Why was it quiet? Because the Padres, they were putting it on them. And then, so it was a different vibe. And I imagine and I can tell you from the NLCS in 22, that first game, it was loud to begin with, and Schwarber hits the home run, Harper hits the home run. It wasn't as loud. It was still a buzz, which is what makes the playoffs different. There's a buzz throughout the building, but it's all dependent on what's happened in the game. But certainly, LA is not a whole lot different. There's more. They can hold more, so I mean that certainly helps in terms of how loud it can get in here. But I'll tell you what, the last 2 days, the last 2 games in San Diego, that was a different experience than I've ever experienced in Petco.
This is something that may not mean a lot to the fans.
Maybe outside of the clinching game against the Dodgers in 22. That was on a whole nother stratosphere. But
all right. Here's something that I know you like to talk about, Tony, because you have a really good feel for this. And some fans, this is all they care about. But 98% of the fans are just going to watch the game.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you because I'm talking to who's ever around, and you happen to be here.
Okay.
Look at Scraby over here feeling like you was
Hang
talking
on a
about
second,
him, Chris.
All right, so here's the thing.
He turned his back to me.
God. Baseball has announced the umpires for the series. Tony, have you seen this yet?
Yes, I have.
You have. So, Mark,
I'll just say this: I'm very happy
you like what they got?
We don't have the Mets and Phillies crew.
You don't like their crew. All right, well, let's give you the Dodger Padre crew. Mark Ripperger is going to be behind the plate for Game 1.
Is that the Ripper? Has to be the Ripper.
No, that's
Tom Paine.
It's Tom Paine. John Tom Paine. He's not in there this time. Ripperger will be behind the plate. Yeah, it's a tough name. John Lipko will be at first. Corey Blaser at second. And Dan Bellino is the crew chief. He'll be at third. And then Trip Gibson and Adrian Johnson round out the crew. Your scouting report, Tony, just for the fans who like to rip on the umps.
Well, Mark is a San Diegan, first and foremost.
Okay, there we go.
He's a San Diegan.
That's good.
He is. I think he's a good umpire. I don't know. He'll miss some calls just like anybody else from time to time, but I think he's a quality umpire. Who was the second one on that list?
First base, John Libka.
No, John Lithgow.
Not John Lithgow. Would you stop trying to mess everything up?
You know what I'll say is I don't have anything to say, which probably means good guy, good umpire. He does his job because I don't have anything bad to say.
Corey Blaser at second.
Okay, Corey and I came up a little bit at the same time. Great dude. I don't like his zone sometimes. I'm going to be honest.
Okay, he's got game 3, so that'll be the game here in San Diego,
game at
right?
home. I don't like his zone from time to time. He's I think a well-tempered umpire. He'll let you say your piece, but he certainly won't. You go too far, he's not afraid to heave-ho you. Now, it's the playoffs, so you don't see that happen very much, and I don't expect it to see it. But, yeah, he's a good dude. My personal opinion, I don't like his zone. What do we got next?
Finally, Dan Bellino will be at third. He's the crew chief. He'll probably do game 4 if it's necessary.
Bellino is he's on my bad list. I don't know if you guys remember. Remember he was staring at Bumgarner like in his face, like trying to provoke him back in.
Was he the guy who did that?
That's Dan Bellino.
Okay.
That's Dan Bellino. I haven't quite forgiven him for it since, but ultimately he's a really good umpire. He's one of those guys that I think takes it very serious and getting it right. He doesn't always get it right, but I think he's a very good umpire. I just have my issues with him.
And finally, Tripp Gibson will be in left field, which I assume puts him in game 5 if it's necessary.
Love Tripp. He's also in that kind of younger group of umpires. He's been in the league now, I want to say 5-6 years. He's done a terrific job. I think he's a good umpire. Tight zone for the most part usually, but he's a good umpire.
All right, Adrian Johnson is the last guy, but he probably won't work. He won't. I don't think he'll work home plate because he'll be in right field.
Adrian is a very honorary individual. He does it. He runs hot often, and typically his crews, at least this year, seemingly were in the mix.
I think him and Mike Shildt got into it a couple times this year.
Yeah, I don't know if Adrian. I can't remember if it was Adrian or not, but. Oh, you know what? I think one of them definitely was Adrian, actually, this year. Yes. No, I think earlier this year, definitely one of Adrian. Adrian was one of them. He's in the mix a lot.
I know how I can get Mike Shildt to get mad at me, and when he comes on the show, I can ask him what he thinks of these umpires.
And then he's going to get fined.
Hey, Mike, I got the umpire list for you. By the way, Scraby, our guy, John Tumpane, the
Reaper.
The Reaper will be
Reaper.
Reaper, yes. He will be in the video review office in New York.
What?
John Tumpane
slashing people from the video
from the video review.
See the slash when he makes the call.
I like John Tumpane, you know that.
I do too.
But he'll be in the video review. All right, we'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, much more on this Dodger Padres series. We're trying to cover it from every single angle for you. Tony's in L.A. and Gwynn and Chris with Scraby alongside it.
Yes, indeed. 3:25 on the clock. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matthew Scraby, together but apart. I'm here at Dodger Stadium watching the Padres take some BP. Scraby and Chris back at the Odyssey Empire. And, we've pretty much hit baseball for the first hour and a half of this show. We'll change gears here because we only got a little short segment after a little long one, the last segment. Falcons get the victory last night. And
Kirk Cousins, who was that?
Kirk Cousins, man.
Oh, God, he's doing his claw thing with the Falcons again.
I heard it in their stadium.
Please knock it off with the con, man. That is brutal.
It's brutal.
It sounds like a toucan.
Brutal.
Yeah.
A toucan, he says.
Yeah, man. Kirk Cousins, over 500 yards. Now, he did it in the overtime period as well.
But he did it.
He threw the ball over 50 times last night. Yeah. That's not going to win you a whole lot of games in the NFL, throwing it 50 times most of the time. But it was needed in this ball game, and Kirk Cousins, man. I don't think we oftentimes we give Kirk Cousins a hard time, but it's not for his regular season play most of the time. Regular season, he's fine. He's more than fine most of the time. It's just the postseason that it gets a little complicated for him.
Yeah, and he's also had trouble on Monday nights.
Yes,
and which lead people to say, well, he doesn't play when the spotlight is the brightest. But this was a night game where they're the only game in town, and he performed great. It was an exciting game. Obviously, they get down at the end. I think the Buccaneers did a very bad job of running out the clock at the end. They gave the Falcons the ball back and just enough time to get down there for that field goal to tie it up. But, Cousins had a great game, and 509. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. Every time I see something like this, I always, my guy, Norm Van Brocklin, 554. The record still stands from 1951. But Kirk Cousins' performance last night, guys, was the 15th best in NFL history. Wow. Not very many games where guys throw for that kind of yardage. So, it was quite a game. The only thing frustrate me as a Falcon fan, and I did talk to our boss, Adam Klug, Mr. Falcon.
Is he frustrated?
No, he's just like saying the same thing I'm saying is like, where has this been and where, when am I going to see it again with Kirk Cousins? Because you don't expect him to be consistently this good. But he was great last night. So,
well, I will say this. He did lead a last-minute drive against the Saints, right?
Yeah, true.
If it weren't for, I think, a kind of a bad PI call, they would have beat the Chiefs too. So, I mean, maybe he would. We're looking at this a little bit of the wrong way, but at least the Atlanta Falcons are, because we don't really care one way or another how Kirk Cousins or the Falcons do. But it was kind of cool to watch him, And he to be fair, he almost tried to give it away. He threw a pick right after they got the fumble.
Yes, he did. He Kirk Cousined.
And that's where I thought that the Bucs could have run out the game, but they did not.
They did not.
They gave him another chance. Baker Mayfield had a good game. I think Buccaneers are good. That division, which has been kind of the doormat for a while.
They got some good teams
it's getting
this year.
better now. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. I think the Saints are pretty formidable. So that division's looking a lot better so far this year. I saw one more thing on the NFL, and then I'm going to leave these guys out of it, and I hope I don't have to talk to them again about them the rest of the season. But I saw power rankings the other day for the NFL. Guess where the Dolphins ranked in this power ranking? I think it was Fox Sports.
35 out of 32?
That's funny.
29.
Yeah, 31 is right.
Oh, dang.
The only team they were ahead of is the team they're playing Sunday, the Patriots. If the Dolphins lose to the Patriots, which I think is very possible, they will honestly could be the worst team in the entire league. How fast did that happen? With Tua, I mean, I don't understand it. I know Tua, they're much better with Tua, but I can't believe that he's that big of a difference.
I mean, we kind of heard this story before, right? Like Tua goes out, the Dolphins aren't good. Tua in, the Dolphins are a lot better.
Yeah.
Now, better in terms of postseason better, that's not the – I don't think that applies. But in terms of regular season, they are certainly a better team with Tua involved. I had something I wanted to ask you. Oh, why do you think they're playing so bad? Is it just simply Tua? You watch these games more than I
do. And here's the thing, and I've said it all along, Tony. The general manager of the Dolphins, I think it's Chris Greer, and the ownership of the Dolphins love the shiny objects. And they keep spending all their money on Odell Beckham and on all these, skilled players. They have no potatoes with the meat, or maybe it's the other way around. But their offensive line is awful. That's why Tua was running for his life in that Buffalo game in the first place. And on defense, they got rid of a ton of really good players in the offseason, and nobody seemed to mention it. But they lost a lot of guys. I don't think there's much grit on that team. So that's the problem. And we've talked about it before. When things are flying their way, they're unstoppable. But when things get tough, they shrink. And that's why Miami they're in big trouble. And if they don't beat the Patriots, I will be happy to call them the worst team in football. Scrape, you don't even have to make fun of me, because I'll agree with you.
I'll leave it to you.
I will agree with you. All right, week 5 of the NFL got underway. It was a thriller, though, last night.
It was indeed. All right, let's get to break. When we come back, Kirk Kenny joins us. He'll talk a little bit of Aztecs, and he'll give us a little historic perspective on this Dodger-Padre matchup on the other side. More Gwynn and Chris.
Ben and
We only talk about the ones we don't like on this show. This show is Gwynn and Chris Ello, Tony Gwynn Jr. in L.A.
Makes me nervous when you go this route.
Matt Scraby over there getting a little nervous. No, they did a poll today. I thought it was an interesting poll on MLB Network. They asked everybody to call in and vote, or however you do vote.
Call in and vote.
Send in your vote by a horse and carriage.
Yes. Go to your ballot box.
Go to your ballot box. But the question was, which of the wild card team winners has the best chance to make a run to the World Series? The choices were Tigers, Royals, Mets, or Padres.
Oh, okay.
Those were the 4 wild card winners.
Okay, all right.
The Padres got over 50% of the vote.
I would hope so.
So a lot of people are bullish on the Padres' chances to make a run. They got 53% of the vote. The Mets got 19%. If anyone's following all of this, Detroit got 16% and Kansas City 10%. I don't think anybody thinks Kansas City can beat the Yankees, except I do. I don't know that they will, but I think they can. I'm still not 100% sold on the entire Yankee club. I know Judge and Soto are phenomenal, but I think that team is, beatable. The Tigers in Cleveland, I think, is almost a toss-up. And Mets, Phillies, the Phillies have to be favored for sure. But the Mets have a magic touch. They keep winning in the 9th inning all the time.
The Ghost Fork is going to be pitching Game 1. Kodai Senga.
Kodai Senga was named the Game 1 starter for the Mets, yeah.
How about they sloughed on that all year? I was always a little. It had my antennas raised, like a calf injury. You just like.
Thank you, Tony.
You're gonna miss the whole year of calf. But I think maybe at that time they assumed they weren't gonna be in the playoffs, maybe. But this makes sense. I mean, a calf is never because this happened. I think that injury happened like at the beginning of the second half.
It did. He came back from injury, and he made one start, and he was fielding a ground ball, and he pulled his calf, and he was on my fantasy.
They're like, he's done for the year. Calf injury.
He did.
Done.
It was definitely like that. And now he's back.
Now he's back.
He's going to pitch Game 1. I will say this about the Mets. I was happy. I was in New York, as you guys know, and on Monday when they beat the Braves, I was really happy to see Steve Cohen, the owner, down on the field, getting a couple of hugs in there and congratulating his guys. Because everybody thought Steve Cohen was crazy, right? Because he didn't give up.
He did.
And I thought, why should he give up? Good for him that he fought it all away. And he said, I'm not trading Alonso. I'm not trading this. I'm not trading that. I believe in this team. He put a little more money in, whatever he had to do. Obviously, he has the money to do it. But, a lot of owners these days, Tony, we've talked about it, they don't compete to win all the way through. And, I was happy to see that, he was rewarded for that.
He was. I mean, he got rid of some pitchers last year. He got rid of, he got rid of Scherzer at the end. He got rid of Verlander. And, everybody felt like, okay, well, they're punting. And, the comments coming out of that deal last year was that they weren't even looking at 2024. They were scheduling 2025. As their chance to kind of get back to it. And so for the team to stay in range throughout the first half and then be rewarded, as you said, Cohen goes out. They're allowed to spend a little bit more money to kind of shore up some things.
Yeah.
Here they are in the NLDS against a rival. I think they went 6-7 against the Phillies this year. So this is a very contested series coming up between those two.
There's two teams that are alive right now. We got Kirk Kenny on the line there. So, Kirk, hang on 1 second. Sorry. But there's two teams that have come from nowhere to get to where they are now, and that's the Mets and the Tigers. The Tigers were more than 10 games out of a wild card spot just a month and a half ago. And now here they are, making a run. So, for all these teams that give up the ship, stop it.
Yeah.
Keep playing. All right, Kirk Kenny going to join us after we check some traffic.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Ale Smith 394 Pale Ale. Just a couple problems here, guys. Cordell and Cordell traffic cam shows a hit-and-run crash on southbound 805 before Claremont Mesa Boulevard. It's in the center divide. And we got a stalled car on the Manchester off-ramp of northbound 5. Ale Smith 394 Pale Ale, the official rally pint of the playoffs. Watch all of the San Diego postseason action at the Ale Smith Tasting Room in Miramar with game day specials on $3.94 and more. Root for the home team with other fans while enjoying the game with sound. Don't miss out. I'm Kelly Danek with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
If you love Mediterranean food, try Spiro's Authentic Mediterranean Cuisine, Coronado, La Jolla. For dining or takeout options, visit Spiro's Cuisine. Is there anything more we can do to keep Kirk Kenny waiting longer?
I guess we should bring him on now.
Let's bring him on. Kirk, I'm so sorry about that. How are you, my friend? You're so kind to join us as always. How are things?
It's no problem. No problem waiting. I just mowed my lawn while I was waiting, and that way it's easier to tell people to get off it.
And I know it's a large lawn that you have people that you chase off of there. Palatial. Kirk, I was joking with Scraby earlier. The Aztecs, and we're going to talk about the Padres too, but you cover the Aztecs. The Aztecs, if they never had any luck at all, it would always be bad luck, right? It's their conference opener tomorrow. Trying to get everybody excited for this new team with Sean Lewis, and they're playing in Hawaii and everybody and the whole thing. And the game starts at the same time the Padre game starts.
Right.
It's really, that's just unlucky.
No, actually, the Aztecs start a half an hour earlier, so maybe people would be so enthralled in the game that they
won't turn away. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll forget all about the Padre-Dodger game.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that happening. Kirk Kenny is with us. We'll talk about the Aztecs. The game the other day, they really had it, and they missed a couple of field goals, and tough loss. But I think Sean Lewis has them going in the right direction. But what I wanted to ask you, Kirk, in 1984, you and I were working together, and here's another reference to newspapers for you, Scraby. Kirk and I were working together at the Daily Aztec. I was the assistant sports editor.
Whoa.
Kirk Kenny was my boss.
Wow.
He was the sports editor. This is circa 1984, Kirk. And that was the first time the Padres went to the World Series. And I just, I think about that today because I feel like the Padres are, hopefully have a chance to make one again this year. And, it's fun to think back on those days and maybe some of what you recall compared then to now, if it's possible.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that their owner, Ray Crockett, passed away in January of that year. So there's direct parallels to the Padres losing their owner, Peter Seidler, this time around 40 years later.
Wow.
So, I'm always thinking of as somebody up there watching over them. Other parallels, it's so much. One thing that's so much different is I believe today or yesterday was their very first game in the playoffs against the Cubs. But, that was one round, and it was best of 5, and they were in the World Series.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have to go 3 rounds to get there, and so you've got to be good for a much longer period to make it to the World Series. So, much bigger challenge. And then the other thing I've asked people, the first time is always so special. I mean, people were so caught up in that. It just gripped the whole city. It's funny because now since it's been 40 years, this is the first time for a lot of people who weren't born back then, and so it's special to them. The energy and the electricity in the ballpark was tremendous this week.
Kirk Kenny joins us here on Gwynn and Chris. And Kirk, I was asked this yesterday because it was noticeable in the last series, especially as the Padres got closer to closing down that series against the Braves. You heard the Beat LA chants. I can't remember, maybe outside of 96, going into that last series, that I've ever heard it as loud or really with any type of passion since then. Is there a time? Was there any time in the 90s outside of the 96 that you can remember a Beat LA chant?
Not for the most part. Not for the most part, because when you average 18,000, it's a lot more difficult to get that big of a chant going.
That's what I did. That's what I thought.
But you're right. I was walking out. My nephew he came down from Orange County. He got to that game for the first time ever at Petco, and I was walking out with him. And within 5 seconds of the last out, everybody starts chanting, "Beat LA, beat LA." I wanted to relate one story, if you will indulge me. There was a lot of Dodger influence when the Padres got started in the late 60s, and Buzzy Bavasi came down from the Dodgers and became their president. And one thing in my research through the years I came across is during the 1968 expansion draft, Bavasi was asked by the guy who replaced him with the Dodgers, who was actually in the hospital on his sickbed, who he was going to take in the expansion draft. And Buzzy gave him the names, and the guy goes, "Oh, no, don't take that guy." And the guy that he mentioned was a promising shortstop prospect named Bill Russell. And the Padres did not take Russell, and they had to wait, I think, 10 years before they got a decent shortstop named Ozzie Smith.
Don't be listening to guys on their sickbed.
It's not.
That's what I say. Kirk,
unless it's a kid asking you to hit 2 homers for him.
That's right, Kramer and Seinfeld and Paul O'Neill. Thank you. Paul O'Neill's classic line to Kramer: one home run maybe, but 2? Promising 2 home runs? Paul O'Neill was incredulous that Kramer could have promised that. You've been around, and I know you've been roaming the stadium. We are amazing when it comes to this time of year, right, Kirk? I mean, the fans are so crazy and excited. That's always kind of been the way, because the '84 playoff against the Cubs was the loudest Qualcomm Stadium or then Jack Murphy ever was. And so we've always kind of had this ability to rise to the occasion, right?
One thing that was neat that year is that was the year Ghostbusters came out, and so the Padres borrowed from that, and it became Cub Busters, and that was just rocking through the stadium. I remember that because I was still working at the stadium in the vending department, and on Garvey's home run, I was walking out towards center field to break down a beer stand, and I didn't have an angle on the outfield wall, so all I did was look at the crowd and its reaction when the ball left the ballpark, and it was just, so memorable and just an electricity goes through the air that is pretty much unmatched if you're watching from home.
Kirk Kenny is with us. He covers the Aztecs for the Union Tribune, but he's been doing this for a long time, and he's been doing stuff for the paper this week on the Padres and their situation. And Kirk, what is just finally? Let's look ahead for 3 weeks, and we win the World Series. I mean, you're a native San Diegan. I'm not, but I've been here almost as long. I mean, what is it going to mean to so many people from this generation to honestly see it finally happen? And I'm getting ahead of myself. I understand that, but is there any way to put it into perspective what would really, this city, I almost, just don't know what to think will happen.
Well, I think the championship everybody always brings up is one from 1964 by a football team that used to be here.
Yeah, right.
But and again, the Padres have been to the World Series twice, so that's been done. So I think if they do win it, then that's got to be the top sports moment, I would guess, ever in San Diego. And now with so many more fans and, the crowds they get and how much people have been caught up in all this, I don't see any sports moment really beating this.
Yeah, I'd imagine with, not a ton of history in championships, there's no way that if this Padre team is able to capture it, that it can be anything but at the very, very, very top of the list. And it probably won't be close.
One thing's interesting, I was looking on the secondary ticket market, and yesterday I think tickets just for Gallagher Square were going for about $200. And I was talking to a buddy, I'm like, it's only the second round. What are they going to go for if they make the World Series?
Right.
And there's been how many people are out at Gallagher Square, would you estimate, Kirk, during these games? It's amazing to me how many people are packing their way in there.
5,000-6,000. I think it can hold up to 8. And they're having a viewing party this weekend. I'm going to go on Sunday and check that out, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. Everybody's caught up in this.
All right, well, Kirk, please do your best to chronicle what happens with the Aztecs Saturday night so that we can all pick up the newspaper, Scraby, on Sunday
This is
and
like
read
the
about it.
6th time we've talked newspapers today.
Okay, you're not going to watch the Aztec game Saturday night. You're going to need to read Kirk's breakdown of the game.
Column every single week.
Sure you do.
Or
online.
Report every
online,
yeah, not in the paper.
Kirk, thanks for joining us, man. Have a great weekend.
Kirk.
All right, argue among yourselves.
There's our guy, Kirk Kenny, and he's been out running around interviewing people during these games, kind of getting some of the flavor of the Padres' latest playoff run. But yeah, I thought the Aztecs making a run to the final 2 was huge. Obviously, the 2 Padre World Series appearances, the former football team making a Super Bowl is going to still rank up there. But I don't know what is going to happen in this city. One thing I do remember, I don't know if you recall it at all, Tony. No, of course you didn't recall it. You weren't around. My stupid thing that was.
None of us were here in 1912.
1984. Stop it. But when they beat the Cubs, after that day, it was a Sunday day game, people were honking their horns.
Oh, yeah.
The rest of the day and the rest of the night. And it was just awesome. Just all over the city, no matter where you went.
I imagine it'll be something like that.
If that happened.
If that happens. I mean, even if it's just getting to that moment. Because remember, that got the team into a World Series. I know it was only one round, but it still was the round before the World Series. I imagine if the Padres get there, that's how it will start. Just a lot of horn honking and things of that nature. But let them win a title, man. I might be a little scared about what would happen if San Diego wins a title, honestly.
Someone was just saying on the chat they're going to need to grease up every palm tree out there so that no one can climb them.
There's going to be a lot of craziness.
Can we be the first city that doesn't overturn cars in Record City?
I hope so.
Let's try. Let's try to
I'm
become
not
that.
100% sure that we can accomplish it, though.
I'm with you, Tony. There are going to be overturned cars.
For sure.
I'm going to park my car elsewhere.
We're not there yet, so we got a little time. We probably just got to do some work first, but certainly would be fun. It's fun. It's actually, you know what? It's reasonable enough for us to actually think about.
Sure,
at this point. I don't know. Maybe outside of 22, and I think even in 22, I don't know that you could feel this confident
that it could happen.
That it could happen. So it's fun that we're even at this point, honestly.
All right, we're going to take a break. In the 4 o'clock hour, around 4:15, we are hoping and expecting and hoping to be joined by Mike Shildt, Padres manager from L.A., so stick around for that. We're not going to do Chris vs. the Fans today. We're going to do a quick segment to make way for Mike Shildt, so sorry about your trivia gang, but we'll get back on that on Monday. But still a lot more Gwynn and Chris ahead till 6 o'clock tonight on 97.3 The Fan.
Into the 4 o'clock hour we go. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby, Padres finished their portion of the workout. Now the Dodgers have taken the field and are starting their workout.
Kicking the ball all over the yard.
I did see Muncy kick one. He booted one.
There we go.
For the most part, he was pretty solid. Yes, indeed. Padres, Dodgers game 1 tomorrow, 5:38 on the dial here at Dodger Stadium. Should be a hot one as well. We've covered a lot of ground today. Some good stuff, some horrible stuff. By now, if you haven't heard, Joe Musgrove will not return this series or likely for the rest of 2025. They wouldn't put any timeline on it, but typically it's a 12-month kind of a rehab process, 12 to 16-month kind of rehab process, which makes it, virtually takes it, unless it's postseason next year, it takes Joe Musgrove out of the chance to play in 2025. So outside of that, Padres getting themselves ready. We will have Mike Shildt here in the next segment, talk a little bit about, what, because he hasn't really spoken since, the news actually broke in terms of Joe Musgrove. He did obviously know about it, but he chose to wait until after A.J. Preller spoke about it. So we'll get a chance to hear from him on that, Chris. But, yeah, man, this is really where we're at right now.
It is what it is, yeah, and the Padres have to just keep going, and I expect that that's what they'll do. You said as much, so, tomorrow it'll be a ball game, and, man, I can't wait. Can't wait for this series. Really excited about it and feel good about the Padres' chances to win. Las Vegas, on the other hand,
they still got the Dodgers.
Still has the Dodgers as the favored team to win the World Series.
Yeah, man.
And again, we've talked about this in the past. This doesn't necessarily mean that Las Vegas is picking the Dodgers.
Right. It does not mean Vegas is picking.
Right. It means that they feel like they're going to get more bets on the Dodgers than any other team, so they have to offer the smallest odds on the Dodgers. And it's a little confusing, but that's how they pick their favorite based on who they think people are going to bet on. And so most people are betting the Dodgers. The Dodgers are minus 135 to beat the Padres. It means you're going to have to bet $135 to win 100 on the Dodgers. Yankees are much larger favorites than that under Kansas City, minus 210. So you got to bet $210 on the Yankees to win 100. But here's the funny thing. The bookmakers are very concerned about, guess what team, guys?
The Mets.
The Tigers.
Oh,
apparently,
please.
people are falling in love with the Tigers.
Tony says, please.
I didn't say people are right, but apparently over 50% of the bets have come in from the state of Michigan in the last month and a half have been on the Tigers to win the World Series. And the Tigers in early September were still 500 to 1. So that's what the books are worried about.
It's a great story, and baseball is a game in such that the Detroit Tigers could find a way to the World Series, and they could find a way to win it. But matching up the way they did in a 3-game set becomes a lot tougher in a 5-game set, becomes even tougher in a 7-game set.
They only have one pitcher, and even A.J. Hinch said they only have one pitcher.
Right, and so it would be one of the coolest things ever to be pulled off in baseball history if that were to happen. But I certainly can't sit here and tell you there's no chance. But I will tell you this. This is also why Vegas never loses money, because people are pouring in Detroit Tiger bets to win the World Series.
There you go.
And by all logic, it is just silly to be giving your money to that. But this is, again, why Vegas never loses. There's always a sucker somewhere, and they find them all.
There's one to my left. The other.
Wait, are you saying that to me?
Well, you bet on this stuff. I mean, you have no money at all, and you still run out and throw bets down once in a while.
And I win them sometimes.
You sometimes win. But here's the other reason that Vegas is undefeated. According to the story, the top 5 preseason betting favorites to win the World Series in a preseason, 3 of them are already out. So the Braves, the Astros, and the Orioles were all top 5 to win it all. And if you bet on any of those three, you're done.
Yeah.
So that's why Vegas wins a lot of money, too.
I mean, when you think
imagine
about it
the Dodgers were another one of the top 5, so hopefully the Padres can put them out.
I mean, when you think about gambling as a whole, like in the community, like it would make sense to be betting on the front runners for this. Like that's kind of how it works. So we'll see. I think Mike Shildt will be joining us here shortly. Gonna be calling shortly. We're able to talk to the skipper about the upcoming matchups, get his feelings on Joe Musgrove and how that whole thing has kind of transpired.
I'm excited. I don't know if Mike Shildt is as excited as I am, but I don't think I've interviewed him this year.
Oh, well here we go. Let's
go.
Let's bring the skipper on right now. Mike Shildt, manager of the San Diego Padres, join us. Mike, I'll start with the news today. Obviously, you spoke before the news broke. I'm assuming you knew didn't want to get ahead of AJ and Joe being able to talk about it. But just from a personal standpoint, Mike, how are you feeling knowing that last start for Joe was his last one, at least for the rest of this year?
Yeah, I didn't want to. We had a team announcement at 2:05 for Joe to be able to share that with his teammates and the staff, and I didn't want to, be early on that announcement. I want him to be able to share it with the people he's in the proverbial bunker with. Clearly hard news, hard news for him, most importantly. Clearly a guy that we all admire greatly. And, Joe Musgrove is everything that's good about sports and everything that's good about humanity. He's just top of the class in everything. And, so it makes it tougher in his heart and love and desire for this organization, his teammates, and the city. To win that first World Series is, that's what's really hurting him. And, but now we have another reason, beyond, the history of the city and, Peter Seidler, but also, we owe this to Joe.
Mike Shildt is with us, and I'm excited to talk to you, Skip. You've been on with the morning show all year, and you haven't had a chance to come on with myself and Tony. So I just wanted to congratulate on a great year of managing. I believe you deserve and will get some Manager of the Year votes. You've done such a fantastic job to this point. But I also believe that along with a manager, to me, you feel like also a fan of sports and the game. And so to have this matchup with the Padres and the Dodgers and knowing how the franchises and the cities feel about each other, this is why you got into the whole thing in the first place, isn't it? To get ready for something like this.
I do this for two reasons. First and foremost, always do it for the opportunity to help players get the most out of their God-given abilities. And the second reason I do it at this level, and specifically at this level, is for this. For these kind of matchups and this kind of opportunity of competition at the highest level with a chance to go and win a world championship. This is what this is all about.
Mike, you obviously have had injuries throughout the course of the year, and you and this team have been big on next man up kind of mantra. But I would imagine losing a guy of this stature this late is a little bit of a different kind of maneuver. This seems like a little bit of a gut punch. How easy is it to refocus your team? Obviously this is the NLDS. You don't get an opportunity to do this very often. But that being said, this is a big cog that you guys are losing. How do you guys turn the page and just get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, unfortunately we've had some experience like that with the guys during the course of the season that have had to miss some time, some big pillars of this organization, of our success. And to the credit of everybody, the greater good, the depth of the roster, the hunger and competition for the guys on the field, we'll figure it out. I've said this and believe it sincerely. Losers complain and winners find solutions. And this is there's no money in complaining or crying. I mean, we have our heart for Joe, and that's different. But no one's going to feel sorry for you in competition. And, we'll strap it on and be ready to go.
Mike, this team was 50-50 after the first game of the All-Star break, a loss there in Baltimore. Since then, though, incredible, 43-19. And when you came, took over as head, manager of the Padres, a lot of people said Mike Shildt, his record is that he's amazing in the second half, and you did that with the Cardinals. Did you do anything different in the second half, or have you always done something different in the second half? And if so, what? If not, what got this team to get turned around the way it did?
Well, I mean, there's probably a lot of answers to that question. With me specifically, yeah, I didn't do anything differently. When did it start? It's not like you come in after the All-Star break and go, "Hey, now it's time, boys." That's far from that, actually. I'm a big believer in the first step, and the first step was the day I took the job and started taking steps every single day for incremental improvement, whether it's culture, whether it's fundamentals, whether it was strategy, whether it's whatever it might be. And, that's the continual growth mindset that I've always had and will always have in this deal. And that's the fun part of the journey. And, I say it all the time, the best is getting better as the game goes, series goes, season goes. And, as far as the first half record, I've talked to Tony about this a fair amount, even publicly and privately. I felt good about it. People are like, "Oh, I don't know what people's expectations are. I just know that this group, from the very first day of me getting the job and starting to partner with our team, putting our staff together, there's a lot that goes into the processes that lead to consistency, and there's a lot of people that weigh in on. There's a lot of people in the organization, the team, that need to figure out a way to pull them in the same direction. That takes time, and all I can do from my seat is collectively try to make sure that we're moving things forward every day, and every single day we get individual, we get collective experiences, team experiences, and how are you growing from them, and ensure that we are. And if we do that, I know we're getting better, and if you have that, then you're going to get better, and you have a group that's willing to buy into that, which is not easy. And Tony's done this grind. It's not easy. It's not easy to show up every day and figure out in this gig, how are we going to get better, and how are we going to learn from last night, and how are we going to push to go, be ready to go today, and give everything we got that day. It's a 9-month season. I don't know how many games we played. We get the blessing of playing over 200 probably by now between spring training and the games we played in the regular season out of playoffs. To bring it every day, to look for that continual improvement every day is a challenge. And the teams that are willing individually and as a group to do that, they end up getting to a point where things start to click. And here we are.
Manager Mike Shildt joins us here on Gwynn and Chris. Last one from me, Mike. I want you to put your scouting hat on here for a sec. You look across the diamond at this 2024 version of the Dodgers. What makes them a difficult team to deal with in a 5-game set?
A fair amount. I always think about what we do, but your question's valid, and I'll be happy to answer it. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. First of all, there's guys that have been there and done that. So this, these moments we're about to go through over the next, 3 to however many games, is not anything that's going to be new for that group a whole lot. So they can rely on experience. They're talented. Let's don't kid ourselves. I mean, the top of their lineup is, Otani's, I think he's human. And you got Betts and Freddie right there, and beyond that, it's deep lineup. They got guys in their bullpen that have big arms, that have done it, that have either been there for them or been acquired, that have really done a nice job. They put the game the right way. So there's a lot. Look, there's a reason they've done what they've done over the period they've done it in, with a lot of the core guys they have. So we're aware of all that. We recognize it. We also look at our side and go, pretty freaking good. And we're going to go we're going to be ready for them, but we're going to play our game and we're going to take it to them, not vice versa.
Mike, we really appreciate the time. Great having you on. It's fun for me getting a chance to talk with you finally, and wish you great luck moving forward in this series. It's going to be exciting. We all can't wait. I know you can't wait, and good luck starting tomorrow, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it. It's going to be fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Manager's Report with Mike Shildt. It's brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big bank banking. It's better. That's fun for me to get Mike Shildt on.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't talked to him all year. I wanted to ask him, we're too serious. We got a game coming up. It's a whole thing. But did you know that he wore somebody told me from St. Louis, he wore number 8 because he's a huge Cal Ripken guy.
So, yes, I did know that.
You did know that. Okay.
He grew up in the minor league locker room as a bat boy while Cal was coming up.
Ah.
So that was one of his guys growing up. So he wears that number 8 in part because of Cal. And yeah, man, listen. The fact of the matter is, Mike, when it comes to this game of baseball, is a very intense dude. He is very serious about the game of baseball, and I think you can hear it in the way he talks about it.
All right, the Manager's Report with Mike Shildt, brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big bank banking. It's better. I also have some friends in St. Louis, and they all tell me that to a person, Cardinal fans still think it was one of the worst moves they ever made.
Well, a lot of people are being reassigned now because of that, in part because of that move that he's no longer there. I think their GM is no longer the GM. They're kind of shuffling bodies around in that organization to try to get back on the right track. But certainly letting Mike Shildt go was the start of the bad part for the Cardinals, it seemed like.
All right, well, their loss, our gain. We'll take a break. Thank you, Tony Gwynn Jr. Enjoy the rest of your birthday. Go get ready for your broadcast tomorrow. We look forward to it. And tell Jesse we wish him the best. Where are we going for birthday dinner tonight? I would suggest, since your wife's with you, just a quick thought, having grown up in L.A., I think you go to La Brea and about Santa Monica, and you go to the Pink's hot dog stand.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm trying to avoid all traffic today, so what I'm going to do is just stay close to Pasadena where we're staying.
All right.
And I'm going to a restaurant called Houston's. It's a very delicious spot.
Enjoy, sir. Happy birthday, man. We'll talk to you next week, Monday, with hopefully a 2-0 series lead.
Sounds good, fellas.
All right, Tony there. Chris and Scraby continuing here after traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan.
in to the Padres skipper Mike Shildt, Manager's Report with Mike Shildt, brought to you by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big bank banking. It's better. Mike Shildt. I wasn't just trying to get on his good side.
I don't know.
Well, I was.
Were you a little nervous?
No,
I was nervous last week talking to him.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to ask any silly questions on the eve of a big series like this. And you know me, I usually do ask a few silly questions, so I tried to stay away from those. But I do think he gets some Manager of the Year votes. I mean, I don't think he wins it. Not that I don't think he deserves it, but Pat Murphy, I think, of the Brewers is probably going to be the Manager of the Year in the National League. Milwaukee got rid of everybody, and he won the division. But don't forget, the Padres slashed payroll significantly and were hardly picked by anybody to finish ahead of either the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks, who were coming off the World Series. And Shildt, won 93 games. Now, it's the second most in Padre history, right? So I think he's getting some Manager of the Year votes for that.
I think so, too.
You
kind of have to.
I don't know. Who else are you going to vote for? The Phillies are kind of expected.
Yeah.
Mendoza with the Mets. I mean, after their bad start, he may get some interest. Brian Snitker probably deserves some votes just for somehow keeping the Braves afloat. But Dave Roberts never gets any votes because everybody expects the Dodgers to win 150 games. Other than that, who would you vote for in the National League? So I think Shilt's got to get some votes for NL Manager of the Year. All right. Tonight is the continuation of the WNBA semifinals. I haven't played a lot of attention to this.
I have paid no attention.
I know, because we've been caught up in the Padres. The Lynx and the Sun, Game 3 tied at 1, and the Liberty trying to knock out the Aces. The Aces are the two-time defending champs, but the Liberty's up 2-0. Those are best-of-5 series. Otherwise, it's a really quiet day in sports. There's a couple of college football games tonight, but no baseball, no football, right, on a Friday night. So it's kind of just, this is a very...
Is there any action? We might have some action.
If there was some action, would you be into it?
No,
I didn't
wouldn't
think so.
No, I would not.
Let me see if we've got Maction tonight. We have no Maction. We do have Houston and TCU.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's a barn burner.
Yeah.
We have Oregon and Michigan State, which is another not a barn burner. Michigan State's really bad. And UNLV, Syracuse. Those are our 3 college football games tonight. But it's a really quiet one. And it's a bad Saturday in college football tomorrow.
Oh, really?
There's no big marquee matchup. Certainly not like there was last week when Georgia played Alabama. So it's kind of a quiet week for college football.
What did you think about that Georgia-Alabama game?
It was exciting.
It was very exciting.
Right? I mean, what is it, 30-0, and they came back to take the lead, and then the next play they hit a bomb, and the guy goes down and scores?
What about that Alabama kid who's 17, who's just
17?
He's the best wide receiver in the country right now,
That's
or at least
great.
one of the best.
Yeah, I hope he's making some NIL money.
Oh, gosh.
Don't get me started.
We talked all about the Matthew Sluka thing with UNLV.
Yeah. The NIL thing is broken so badly right now. I don't know if anybody can fix it.
No. They need to come up with something completely new.
It shouldn't, Scraby. It shouldn't, because these kids are out there and they're competing and they're playing their heart out and they're representing their schools. But it has taken a lot of the joy of college football out of it for me. And I can't totally explain that because, I feel like these kids have always kind of been given somewhat of preferential treatment to play Division I college football. But now knowing that they're all holding out for 50,000, 100,000, 250,000, I don't know. I've kind of lost my love for the whatever, was the old days of college football. It's just nowhere close to being that way. And the USC and UCLA and the Big Ten, I can't do it, Scrabe.
Well,
I can't do that.
We kind of talked about it. Well, we didn't kind of talk about it. We did talk about it, about Matthew Sluka and all that. And there is the angle of this guy's not going to go pro. So he needs to make his money right now.
Okay.
But I've been thinking a lot about this. Why didn't this kid have a written contract for this money before he made decisions? You should never, if there's big money on the line like that, you should never just accept a verbal agreement. You should make sure it's on paper.
I just can't believe there is big money like that.
There's bigger money out there.
Oh, there's so much of it.
What's his face? The Nebraska coach said it costs like $3 million to get a quarterback these days. What's his name? Matt Rule.
There's one aspect of college football that I still feel is a little bit like the old carefree days where I felt like kids were just playing for the glory of playing. And that exists, I believe, still at Army and at Navy. And I can bring that up because it has been at least my lifetime to where we've gotten to the month of October and both Army and Navy are undefeated right now. Now if they could keep that going and then meet in the Army-Navy game at the end, that's something I'd get behind. But the rest of these guys all making $150,000, it's just bothering me.
Those days are long gone, number one, because back in the day, money wasn't as big. So, the money was still there.
It's unbelievable.
It's billions of dollars that is being spent on college football.
How did we get from, hey, if you use your image or likeness to sell something, you can get some money, to just flat out, how much do we have to pay you to play here? Like, how did we miss? How did we get from step A to step B without any intervention?
You went from step A to step Z.
Right.
Without anything in the middle.
And nobody intervened.
Because no one knew what to do. They just wanted to get something done.
So it just started happening.
Yeah.
Now you can't go back. All right, we're going to do a big five. Then in the 5 o'clock hour, plenty more on the Padres and Dodgers. So game one is tomorrow night. It starts at 5:38 p.m. right here on 97.3 The Fan. More Gwynn and Chris ahead.
Ben and Woods on the Fan.
And then ESPN Plus says that he is the 27th most impactful player in this year's playoffs. I don't know how they do these rankings.
Who?
Dylan Cease.
Oh, well, he hasn't pitched yet, so I guess I know why.
Yes, he hasn't been that impactful yet, but he certainly can be tomorrow, and we will hear from Dylan Cease at the top of the hour. 4:38 is the time right now. Cease starts for the Padres, Yamamoto for the Dodgers. Game 1 at 5:38 p.m. tomorrow. Ben and Woods have a viewing party.
Yes.
Get out to AleSmith tomorrow.
2:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, from 2:30 to, well, they're going to be there 2:30 to 4:30 during their show live.
Yes.
And then everybody's going to hang around, probably listen to Sam Levitt's pregame show at 4:30, you know.
Possibly, yes.
You can't enjoy Padre baseball if you haven't listened to Sammy Lev.
I think we may be checking in with Sammy Lev at 5:20.
Well, let's have Sammy Lev. Yeah, he's up in L.A. today. We'll catch up with him. $3.94 beer, game day specials at everything going on up in Miramar tomorrow at AleSmith. If you don't know the exact address, it's off Miramar Road, right up there. So just look up AleSmith and you'll find it.
Go to your maps on your phone and type in AleSmith Tasting Room or AleSmith Brewing Co. or something.
She'll find it. You guys, I don't
She'll?
You'll find it.
Oh, I was gonna say, is your maps person a woman?
I told you today that I met a lady with the Aztecs women's basketball team is taking over some of the travel. So I asked her. I said, "Yeah, I wanted to get your phone number, your info, so that we're in contact, and so I can get itineraries and flight information." And she took out a card that looked like a credit card to me, and tapped it against my phone.
Yeah.
And all of
Chris
a sudden,
is so amazed by
I'm
this.
so amazed by this. She tapped it on my phone, and next thing I knew, it downloaded all of her information. Her email, or text, or phone, or address, or Twitter number, everything.
I'm sorry, this technology has been around for the last 10 years.
10 years, and I'm just seeing it for the first time today?
I will say I don't know many people that use it this way, but it's probably really easy for her as someone who books a lot of things and probably has to communicate with different people. So
it was, I was impressed, man. I told her, I said, I've known you for like 2 minutes, and I'm already like, you're incredible. So it doesn't take much to, fire me up.
That's really funny.
You tap your card against my phone and all of your information downloads right away. I'm like, yeah, that was good.
That
was
really
good.
funny. Really
right.
funny.
Let's check some traffic while we're doing that. And then Scraby's going to do a little Big Five with us here.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive to Oil Change, your trusted instant drive to oil change. Well, we're seeing plenty of activity on our roads, guys. Got a hit and run crash now on eastbound King Freeway, right around Kenwood. It's over to the right shoulder. Also, car fire reported on southbound 125 before Fletcher Parkway. This is over to the right shoulder. Traveling on the southbound 5 right before H Street, collision involving a couple cars. That is over to the right shoulder. We also got a collision on southbound 15 past the 52. This is in the clearing stage over to the right shoulder. And on the northbound 15 past Claremont Mesa Boulevard, crash blocking the slow lane. Stop by into the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive to Oil Change Centers. You don't have to get out of your car. It usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Plus, get a free courtesy check of your tires and battery. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for directions and discounts. SoCalOilChange.com. I'm Kelly Danick with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's that time of the show when we check on the latest in sports. Only the most important topics and questions are brought to light.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
These news stories will astound and amaze you. The one, the only.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
The Big Five starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
And the Big Five is brought to you by Summit Subaru of El Cajon. See all the 2 ways to save right now at summitsubaru.com. And yes, we have a sponsor for the Big Five now. Thank you, Summit Subaru.
And you read it much better today.
Yes,
So
yes.
maybe they'll stay with us.
The first ever time I read it, and I box it up, as Chris would say.
You did.
So, in all of the news that's been released here in the last couple days with the Padres and reports and all of that, Kevin Acee tweeted this yesterday, and it kind of went under the radar, but he said, interesting development as Ha-Seong Kim enters a big offseason. The Padres shortstop has hired Boris Corporation to represent him. There's a mutual option for 2025 with the Padres that Kim is likely to decline. Even with his shoulder surgery looming, he is expected to be coveted in free agency. Chris, what does it tell you he signed with the Boris Corp?
That he wants as much money as possible? What else would it tell me?
It tells me, well, go ahead.
No,
it tells me he's not going to be a Padre next year.
Oh, I never thought he was going to be.
I
mean, with the kind of money he's
either.
going to command, and, I think he's going to get some good money, so good for him. But I don't think the Padres, I don't think he's the guy. I mean, Bogarts is playing short right now. Coney can play second. You got Arise and the rest of these guys for first. And let's just put it this way. Isn't Arise also got to be re-signed? Or
yes.
Okay. So let's say you can only have one. Who would you rather
confirm
have?
that before I
confirm
do
that
my
before
scravy thing?
Yeah.
Luis Arise is in arbitration year 4. So he still has one more year of arbitration, but they could settle or they could give him an extension or something like that.
Well, it's
He's
all
an
very
unrestricted
confusing
free
to me.
agent in 2026.
All right, it's all confusing to me, and I don't keep that close of tabs on it because I just enjoy watching these guys play, and I don't enjoy, listening to them haggle over contracts. But I'd rather have Arise than Kim. I'd rather find a way to keep Dylan Cease for a little extra time than Kim. There's just bigger priorities for the Padres, so... Yeah, I don't expect Kim to come back, and if Boros is the guy, he's going to sign wherever he gets the most money, and good for him. If that's what that's what he desires. Good for him.
Dylan Cease has one more year under control, and then
I know, but you got to get him.
You
locked
do.
in.
Oh, you do.
Right.
So, you do.
Yeah.
What does it tell me? It tells me that yes, Ha-Seong Kim is looking for the big payday, which is fine, but. I don't know if Scott Boras is the same Scott Boras that we saw, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. This last offseason for his clients was not good.
Didn't go well.
And I don't know if the owners are starting to say, like, hey, we don't want to deal with this guy because he just keeps gouging us. But it does tell me that Ha-Seong Kim is probably not going to be on the team next year. But you're right. They need to spend that money elsewhere, even if they were thinking about bringing him back, because he's not worth, in my mind, the $20 million that he may get a year, or $15 to $20 million that he may get a year.
Agreed.
But it's sad though, because I do like the guy.
Number 4.
Now, yesterday during the game, Brewers star, actually this was a couple games ago. Brewer star shortstop Willie Adames confirmed he did offer to meet Mets DH ex-Brewer Jesse Winker in the parking lot to settle differences.
Really?
After on-field chirping match
To
between
settle differences, huh?
Following Winker's 2-run Game 1 triple. Quote, I told him that when we were chirping at each other, I was there in the lot, and Jesse Winker didn't show in the parking lot.
So he went and waited.
I guess so.
Apparently, according to Adames.
So, now my question is, it's not about Adames. It's not about the childlike behavior of calling someone to the parking lot to fight them. It's about Jesse Winker. Is Jesse Winker the most annoying player in baseball right now? My answer is yes.
Yes.
This dude
He challenged somebody in our stands when he was here with the Nationals, right?
I was like, ah, man, that's bad. The whole thing about Jurickson Profar was bad. But this dude was so upset about a celebration, and yesterday he threw his helmet on the ground.
Yeah.
He's just over the top. He was wearing, like on July 4th, he was wearing a Uncle Sam outfit when they had a walk-off win. Like, I am not into Jesse Winker. He's very annoying to me. He seems like he likes to do things that he finds annoying, and I don't like those people. Chris?
I'm enjoying the Mets run right now. I'll stop enjoying it if they end up playing the Padres, of course, but the Mets are a lot of fun right now. Jesse Winker is trying to single-handedly ruin that for me. So I'm just tired of people with the look-at-me attitude and the over-the-top histrionics. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But Jesse Winker, for some reason, has decided to go ahead and play the bad guy. Yeah. I mean, he's been booed everywhere he's gone. I mean, in Milwaukee, I don't know if you saw it, Scraby, but he made an out last night, and as he was jogging back to the dugout, you could see the fans behind him screaming. I mean, it was like, come on up here so we can,
fight.
I can punch you type yelling. Is he the most annoying guy in baseball?
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says.
I got him.
Oh, man. Yeah, Jesse Winker. As the chat says, do as I say, not as I do.
Number 3.
I don't get why Jesse Winker's acting like, such an idiot.
I don't either.
And I'll call him an idiot, and I won't show up in the parking lot when he
I
challenges
will not either,
me.
because I'm sure he's a very strong man that will beat me.
Yeah,
right. In a world where people try to shift blame on others, Arizona Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick is pointing the finger at himself, Chris.
Oh, boy.
Even if it's to totally trash another player. Mr. Kendrick blamed himself for the signing of free agent starter Jordan Montgomery, saying he was the one who suggested to the front office that they sign him after starter Eduardo Rodriguez injured his left shoulder in spring training. Kendrick now says he regrets the recommendation, saying the Diamondbacks should never have signed him, who Montgomery went 8-7 with a 6.23 ERA in 21 starts this season. They signed him to a 1-year, $25 million contract. Chris, you're up. Do you think owner Ken Kendrick said anything wrong here?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
It's not good radio, but I'm thinking.
Should I go first then?
No, I know he did. And I'm owners should own. That's all I have to say about this. Just own your team and shut up, and don't be calling into radio stations and asking to be interviewed so you can say stupid stuff.
Well, that is the weird part. That is definitely the weird part.
Owners need to own, and the successful. Now, he was in the World Series last year, so he's probably starting to feel pretty good about himself. But
well, before the year, he was even talking about how they may move from Arizona. He just says a lot of things, it seems like.
Yeah, he puts a lot of people in harm's way.
However, though, Chris.
And people have to answer for him all the time, right?
And this is why I am slightly okay with this, because he is telling everyone to blame him, no one else in the organization. So when fans are like, it's the GM's fault or it's the manager's fault.
True that.
He's saying, I'm the guy who said to sign him. It was my mistake. Now, should he have trashed Jordan Montgomery in the process by saying he was terrible?
Can't imagine Jordan Montgomery would be looking forward to coming back to the Diamondbacks.
Can you imagine if like AJ Preller or when Peter Seidler was with us, like if he were to come out and say, you know what, that was all on me. It was a terrible decision. He was a terrible player. It's weird for an owner to say, because other players probably don't like that, and they may not want to come play for your team if you're like that. But I will say, at least he pointed the finger at himself.
Number 2.
Bob Nightingale tweeted out the average ticket prices for the NLDS and ALDS home games per Logitix. And out of all the teams, Chris, who do you think has the most expensive average ticket?
Yankees.
No.
What?
Yankees are second to last. They have the second to cheapest ticket.
Yankees are seventh?
On average. They are $177 per ticket, according to this post. The Philadelphia Phillies, number 1.
Really?
Get this. $417 average ticket.
Average ticket?
Average ticket.
Wow.
Now, here's where it kind of makes me a little bit sad. The San Diego Padres are second, Chris. $319 per
average
ticket.
ticket for the pod. There must be some like $1,000 tickets that are.
There's
throwing that out
definitely
of
like
whack.
suites and stuff and things like that, like behind home plate.
That's what I
that
gotta believe
cost a
as
lot of
well.
money.
Yeah.
So the question here for me is, are you okay with this price?
No.
And the answer is no.
No.
But
what am I going to do about it?
Exactly. This is what tickets are going for. Now, I would like to see teams in postseasons give tickets to fans that have been there all season long. I don't like it when fans...
What do you mean give them tickets?
Or at least offer them cheaper tickets. Offer them something that's affordable. For the people that go to every single game, good or bad, like I don't like it when teams box out their own fans because they just can't afford a ticket. So I would like to see them and other teams allow fans to go for a more affordable
What
price.
I enjoy the most about baseball and the way it's set up and teams and everything, what I enjoy them doing is gouging fans for $70 to $80 to park your car. That's what I enjoy. Just feeling like
enjoy it?
Of course I hate it, but what can I do? You know, we went to walked around Fenway Park when we were there at Boston on our trip. Parking there was there was a sign parking for $80. You know, I mean the Padres are in the 50s most places down there. I'm not trying to tear apart the Padres. They're getting what they can get, but where else am I supposed to park my car? I don't have a choice. I hate when I have to pay something. I feel for the fans on that. I really do, Scrape.
I do too, but I also like taking the trolley, so I don't mind if I need to take the trolley. Because like on Tuesday night, after the first win over the Braves, it took me a while to get out of that parking lot. It took me forever. But, all right, there we go. And this is, I just want to clarify for everybody who's saying in the chat, this is the resale market. This is not the purchase price market.
Okay.
Number one.
Terry Francona is back, Chris. The Reds fired David Bell.
Saw that.
And Terry Francona is the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds. You're up first. What do you think? Good hire?
I think it's a really good hire. I'm worried about his health. The guy hasn't been able to be healthy in a long time, and managing a major league team and living that lifestyle is no way to get healthy. We know this.
Yeah.
Late nights, traveling, no sleep, bad food.
Yep.
I mean, I love it, but I'm not battling health problems. So
this is a huge
I'm a little
mistake.
concerned by it.
This
but
is a huge mistake.
I will say I'm a little concerned.
It reminds me of when the White Sox hired Tony La Russa. And they thought he was going to turn it around.
Well,
I
Francona's
feel
a little
bad
younger
for Reds
than
fans.
La Russa.
I think that this Reds team needed someone that was a little bit younger.
I think Francona's pretty good at relating to young guys, but I'm concerned about his health.
All right, Dylan Cease, presser, when we get back on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, happy hour for you on a Friday night. Gwynn and Chris, 97.3 The Fan. Chris Ello, Matt Scraby together in our Odyssey Palace studios. Tony Gwynn Jr. with us throughout the day from Dodger Stadium. Workouts continuing there as the teams prepare for the start of the National League Divisional Series. If you're just tuned in, we have to hit you with some bad news. Joe Musgrove revealed today that he will be undergoing Tommy John surgery, the result of a UCL injury tear in that elbow. He said pretty significant. Obviously, Joe not going to pitch again this season. Probably won't pitch all of next season. And we heard from Joe earlier on the program today. Choked up a few times talking about, not being able to go out and try to get this World Series for his hometown of San Diego with this group of guys.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is, and the Padres have to move on. Mike Shildt joined us on the program a little earlier. If you missed any part of that interview, you can catch it. Our website, 973thefansd.com, or the Odyssey app. I think it was about 4:15 today. A little before that, actually.
It was.
He called
it was
in early.
4:08.
Okay, thank you, Scraby. 4:08, exact time of Mike Shildt's phone call to us and interview with the skipper ahead of tomorrow's Game 1.
I don't know what to call a baseball manager. Like, I didn't want to call Mike when I was answering his phone call.
Skip?
I didn't feel comfortable calling him Skip. I didn't want to say, well, hello, manager.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I should just call him
Mike
Skip.
would have worked. I think he probably answers to that.
I grew up with
you just got too much respect for him.
People in a position of power, I have to
you.
say Mr.
This hour is brought to you by the brand new Front Wave Arena. I'm kind of excited about this.
Me too.
It really hasn't been a lot of fanfare.
There should be more.
I think there should be a little bit more. Front Wave Arena, it's in Oceanside. The Clippers, the LA Clippers, are going to be taking on the Brooklyn Nets at the all-new Front Wave Arena. Hometown heroes Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell will hit the floor October 8th. That's not long from now, Scrabe. That's next week.
That's next Tuesday, I believe.
Next Tuesday. One night only preseason showdown. You basketball fans, get your tickets now at frontwavearena.com. And I believe the Clippers minor league, D-League, whatever it is, G-League, D-League, why they changed the letter every year.
I think it is the D-League, the
I think it's the D-League
league
these days. But the Clippers team's going to play there. Am I not?
Yeah.
That's what I understand it, right? So
It's
you're going to
actually-
get to see
yeah.
really good pro basketball in Oceanside this year at this new arena. But I really haven't seen or heard much about it.
I've heard some stuff about it, but you're right. It's a bigger deal than I think we've given it credit for. Given credit to.
Well, it's a bigger deal than we've made it. Right?
There we go. There we go.
Okay, I called up Front Wave Arena and I got Frontier Airlines. Why did that happen?
Well, are you going to Denver anytime soon?
No, my Google thing is on the fritz over here.
Yes, the Google thing is on the fritz.
The Google search engine is on the fritz. All
I
right,
just
Front
found
Wave
it.
Arena in Oceanside, proud home of the San Diego Clippers. That's right. They're calling them the San Diego Clippers, the team that is going to be the feeder team to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yes.
All right, very good. Dylan Cease is pitching Game 1 tomorrow for the Padres. And he talked to the media, had his press conference, get ready for Game 1. Let's hear what he had to say as he gets set to try to get the Padres off to a good start tomorrow.
Dylan, your last start was against these guys. What are some of the challenges of having to do it again in a kind of ramped-up atmosphere now?
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm not really looking at it any differently than last time. I'm kind of just, learning from that experience. The biggest thing is just, I feel like that gave me a little bit of a kind of an experience and a look into what this will be like. Obviously, it's going to be a little more intense, but if anything, I look at it like it was kind of preparing me for this.
How did you do that preparation, knowing that you could have faced Atlanta and now you end up facing these guys? Like, were you focused on the Braves until you weren't?
I was more focused on what I was doing. kind of work on my mechanics, making sure I liked how the ball was coming out of my hand. You know, and since I just faced them, I have a lot of their lineup kind of fresh on my mind on you know, how an attack plan. So it was more of just focusing on putting myself in a position where I feel like I was going to execute as consistent as possible, which for me was kind of work on mechanics.
Barry.
Hey, Dylan. So you've had pretty good success against Ohtani. I was noting 4 for 15, a couple of home runs, 4 RBIs. What do you do to basically suppress what he does? And was a lot of this here, or did you face him a little bit in Chicago with the Angels too last year?
Yeah, I faced him when he was on the Angels. Obviously, he's a great hitter, and you got to mix it up and do the best that you can to not leave over the heart of the plate, really.
Does he have a hole?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into too many details on anything, but you know, he's obviously a great hitter, so I'm going to go in with a high level of focus and just attack.
If you give me too many details, you have to kill me. Is that what to tell you?
Yeah, essentially.
Go to Alden and then to Kevin up on the left.
Hey, Dylan, how tough is it for you guys that Joe Musgrove is not going to get to be part of this, at least for now, with you guys?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he's not performance-wise going to be out there, but he's a big part of our clubhouse and a leader, so he'll be with us in other ways. But it's definitely unfortunate. But either way, we're going to pick up the slack and we're just going to keep moving forward.
Kevin,
as a teammate and rotation mate the first year, what did Joe mean to you?
Yeah, he meant a lot. I mean, you know, he's a great leader, a great teammate. Being from San Diego, really kind of helped show me around and show me the culture and everything. So I'm grateful that I was able to, you know, be around him so much this year.
Has there ever been a hitter that you haven't challenged him? You're very confident in your stuff. It's good stuff, but you've got Shohei and then a couple really good hitters right behind him too. This is a unique lineup, and I just wonder, would you face them differently than you have anybody?
I mean, in general, baseball is kind of a game where, you know, you have to do certain things if you're going to have success. If you pitch timidly and you walk guys or you fall behind, you're really just setting yourself up for failure. So at the end of the day, it's a challenge, and, you know, it's difficult, but you got to kind of rise to the occasion and meet it.
That's pretty good, Scraby. I was just kind of, you know, going through my computer here while that interview was playing.
What does that even mean?
Well, what it means is I happened on the stream. And I didn't realize that when we were playing an interview like that with Dylan Cease, that people watching on YouTube could actually see Dylan Cease.
I'm trying to do the video thing. I'm trying.
Wow.
It's hard.
I was impressed by that.
You have to, well, I'm like
something, and I go, wait a minute, that's Dylan Cease.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
I'm
Did you see the
impressed.
shirt he was wearing?
Yeah.
His No Joe and Dylan shirt.
Well,
I mean,
look,
knowing what we know now, he knew when he was asked that question that Joe Musgrove was going for Tommy John, which sucks.
Yeah, look, Dylan Cease should be thankful to Joe. I mean, Joe put him up in the guest house.
He did.
When he first got to San Diego.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't think about that a lot, but he'd never been to San Diego much in his life. And Joe helped him kind of get acclimated here.
Joe also called that team party, I'll call it, before the year, where he got everybody and they went out on a boat and they had dinner. And Michael King said that was one of the best things for him because he was able to get to know the guys off the field a little bit. So, I mean, Joe is a massive part of this team.
And he's still going to be. He's just not going to be able to pitch. And that's a big loss. There's no argument there. All 4 playoff series start tomorrow. Yankees and Royals. Actually, the first game up is in the morning. Tigers and Guardians. And I almost called them the Indians. The Metropolitans take on the Phillies at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Then Royals, Yankees. Now, if you're from my era, Scraby, the Royals and the Yankees played each other in the playoffs.
George Brett
days, 76, 77, 78, and 80.
But that wasn't the any of those they were not the
None
Pine Tar
were the
game?
Pine Tar game, no, but that was during that same era. But the Yankees beat the Royals 3 straight years, and then finally in 1980, the Royals got the best of the Yankees, and it was Brett who kind of wrapped it up. I remember he had a big home run off Goose Gossage. But my point is, Kansas City and the Yankees have a long history going back of playoff matchups, but they haven't met in a long time. Mets and Phillies have never played in the playoffs. Neither have the Tigers and Guardians. And I'm pretty sure we're all aware what the Padres-Dodgers history looks like in the postseason.
I believe
there's been 2 meetings. If you're not aware, one was in 2020 and the other was 2022.
Wow.
Well, they would have never played in the playoffs because they were in the same division.
Yeah.
Right? It's only been the last many years
With
where
the
you've had wild cards and all kinds of things moving around. So
I mean, I can't even imagine a day in baseball where you had to be what? You just had to have the best record in
until
19
okay, and this is you're going to play the song again. But I'm just giving information. In 1969 is when they went to divisional play.
Yes.
Before that, there were 10 teams in each league. And if you won the American League, you went to the World Series. That's it.
So crazy to me.
And if you won the National League, you went to the World Series. In 1969, they split to 2 divisions, and that was the year the Padres came into existence, along with the then Expos, the then Seattle Pilots, who immediately became the Brewers the next year, and the Royals. They all 4 came in the same time. That created 2 6-team divisions in each league, and there you had your first ever NLCS, although I don't believe in 1969 they called it the NLCS yet.
What the heck were they calling it?
Just the playoff. I don't know. They didn't have any fancy titles like that back in the day.
The old Haas Radborn Bowl?
It was only 1969. The first National League Championship Series was contested between the Mets and the Braves. Tom Seaver and company prevailing over Hank Aaron and company 3-0.
Wow.
Yeah, that was way
great.
back when.
That's
Padres didn't make one of those until 1984.
Yes.
When they beat the Cubs. All right, Sam Levitt joins us. We'll get his take from Dodger Stadium. And we still have a countdown ahead, and I think you'll enjoy it. We're going to have some fun with it, with some audio clips along the way. So stick around for some fun as Gwynn and Chris checks traffic.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic.
5:19 is the time. Crisello, Scraby, Odyssey Palace. Tony Gwynn Jr.'s in L.A. So is our guy Sam Levitt. And if you're listening to the game tomorrow night, or even getting ready to watch the game, you're having a watch party somewhere, you're not going to be ready for Padre baseball if you don't listen to Sam Levitt's pregame show, which starts at 4:38 tomorrow afternoon. Hi, Sam Levitt. Thanks for being with us. I know you're worn out already after the calm before the storm today turned into a storm with this unfortunate news with Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, obviously we knew Joe was getting the MRI yesterday, and I still think, based on how great Joe was before Thursday and just Joe in general, how tough a guy he is and how much he's meant to this organization, I still think pretty shocking news coming out about Joe having to undergo Tommy John surgery, and obviously it means in all likelihood he'd miss all of next year. And hearing from Joe and how emotional he was, and I'm sure you guys played some of the audio a little bit earlier, you feel for Joe Musgrove. He's somebody who, if you didn't believe it already, you certainly believed it as he, went through the last few months and what he'd been feeling the last few weeks. You want to talk about leaving it all out there and giving it your all? Well, Joe literally pitched until he couldn't pitch anymore because of what was going on in his elbow, and we find out today, obviously, that the situation was bad enough that he needed Tommy John. So, yeah, it's quite a juxtaposition between the excitement and the hope of what this NLDS could bring and what this postseason could bring with the way the Padres are playing. Then you put that alongside, obviously, tremendously disappointing and sad news that Joe Musgrove's going to be gone for a while.
Scraby, was I paying attention to Sam Levitt there, or did he just say the word juxtaposition?
No, he did. He said
Wow.
I can't even say the word juxtaposition.
Barely. My goodness, at the end of a long day even.
For all the people out there that don't know what juxtaposition means,
really know,
what is the
honestly, but
definition?
I think it's just kind of... Go ahead.
I think juxtaposition means like when you have two things side by side and they're very different, or you're comparing two things and they're very different.
Good, Sam Levitt.
That's why
very
Sam
good.
has that's why Sam's in his position.
That's why
He
we
can
keep
use
him
words
around.
like that.
That's why we keep him around. All right, so what's the feeling with the Padres? I know everyone was asked about Joe today, but you still got a series to go tomorrow, and a big one that we all can't wait for. Sam, I mean, give us just a little feel as far as the team is concerned. With on the eve of this series.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Number one, much like I said before, they played the wild card series. They had a workout here today. They did extensive defensive drills. They hit on the field, and it was the same as it was before the Atlanta series, and just a very calm, confident-seeming group. And Jurickson Profar talked about it during his press conference earlier today. When asked about comparing the 2022 run to where this team is this year, and he talked a lot about throughout the press conference about this team just having a certain confidence to it. To me, I think that's what we're learning from, these early postseason games and what some of the guys are saying. When you compare it to 22, not that it's, a direct comparison, but obviously you can make it with them playing the Dodgers again in the NLDS. I think you could argue this group has just a different confidence to them than maybe even that 2022 group did, where it was a little bit more of a surprise run. They had to get through two 100-plus win teams. This team, I think, expects to go out there and win and has the confidence right off the bat that they can really hang with anybody, including this Dodger team. So to me, still a very confident, but disciplined group, and I think they played that way really for months now, and I think they're viewing this series against the Dodgers like that. I don't think they overlooked the Dodgers at all. Obviously, the Padres had a lot of success against them in the regular season, which you can hang your hat on and is great. But I don't think they think that really means a whole lot once it gets to this time of year, and they've got to be ready to go, obviously.
I have 3 words for you and letting you off for the rest of the evening, Sam.
Oh, you determined Sam's schedule now?
Well, I hope he's off for the rest of the evening.
I would
what
hope
more
so
does he
too.
still have to do?
I don't know.
What he needs to do is jump in his car and find Pink's Hot Dogs
I'm sure Sam has done that already. Have you done that, Sam?
Do you know Pink's hot dog stand?
I've never even heard of it.
Really? This surprised me. Sam's a very cultured person, so he knows this stuff.
It is the go-to place for all really cool Hollywood types to go grab a wonderful, one of the best hot dogs you'll ever have in your life.
I got to be honest with you. I'm really not a huge hot dog guy. I mean, I'll eat a hot dog, but I don't feel any great need to go out of my way to.
I was trying to get you to hang with the trendy people.
Sam hangs out in a baseball stadium for half of the year.
Well, I will say I do have a favorite LA breakfast spot near my brother's apartment in West Hollywood, but I'm not staying there this trip, so I'm quite a ways away. So I got to figure out some places to go tonight and tomorrow and all that. But I'll Google it up, Chris. I'll give it a fair shake as far as research.
Take it under advisement.
Text Tony and tell him you want to join him for his birthday dinner.
Yeah, we can tell you where Tony's going for dinner. You could just show up. We know where he's going, Sam.
All right. Sam's an important person. We're just taking his time now at this point.
We're having some fun. Sam, have a great weekend, man. We'll see you next week back here.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks,
there
Sam.
you go. Sam Levitt. Our guy. Sammy.
Yep, that's
I understand why he's angry right now. You beat him by 2 points in fantasy football. Not in just this league, but in another league.
We haven't even talked about it. But
really?
Honestly, he's been so busy.
We've
been so busy.
He sounded a little bitter there, and I think it was because of you.
Well, I played him in 2 leagues last week.
2 leagues and beating him by 2 points
like
in
a
both
combined
games.
5 points.
Yeah, he's not happy with you.
Sam's team's not so bad though.
No, he's doing all right. Everybody in our league, in our work league, is pretty much 2-2. A couple people are 3-1.
You know who's number 1 in our Padres media league?
I don't.
Kevin Acey is undefeated.
Kevin Acey's got a 4-0 team, huh?
Yes, he does.
Good for him.
Yeah, only
Good
guy
for
who's
him.
undefeated in that league.
Yeah, nobody's undefeated in our league here.
No. I haven't really checked the standings because I'm waiting for it to get some more games.
Spread out a little bit. It's still early in the season. All right. Speaking of fantasy football, there's a lot of injuries in the NFL. My goodness. And there's buys this week for the first time.
Yes.
I think the Eagles are off this week. The team that used to play here is off this week. There's a couple more. And so when you got, I think the Lions are off this week. There's some really good teams.
Did you say the Eagles? Sorry.
Yeah, I said the Eagles. But you look at players that aren't playing. The Buffalo-Houston game, there's like 3 Bills starters out, and all the Houston backfield is out. Joe Mixon and a bunch of guys. Austin Eckler may play for Washington, but Ryan Robinson may not. Watson and Dobbs, the Packers wide receivers, are both out against the Rams, who are still without Kupp.
And Puka. Puka's sitting on my bench. Just
Devontae Adams and the rest of the Raiders are out. Crosby might be out for their game against Denver.
He was out last week, too.
Injuries are a problem. Jonathan Taylor, Colts, not going to play. Quarterback, Anthony Richardson, maybe. And then there's this story. Scrabe, I saved the best for last.
Oh, gosh.
Sunday's game at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California.
I know where you're going with this.
Home of your 49ers.
Yes, the Santa Clara 49ers,
That's right.
I might add.
Taking on the Cardinals. According to AccuWeather, the high for the game will be 99 degrees, which will be the hottest game in the 11-year history of Levi's Stadium.
That is hot. I'm not.
That's
and you know
warm.
what? Everybody tells me that stadium is directly in the sunlight for the most part, and it's not built for hot days. So everybody make sure you drink your water. I also saw that the 49ers tried to change their uniforms to the white ones at home.
The league wouldn't let them?
The league, you have to put it in for it before the year. So
Yes,
you
you
can't
do.
change your uniforms just because the weather's hot, which I think is stupid. Because you're the home team.
It seems to be if maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday you decide.
I guess Kyle Shanahan asked on Monday.
Is it that hard for the other team to,
Maybe
go find their other ones?
I'm actually pretty sure it's got to be hard because
the NFL is really weird on uniforms. I mean, we've already been through the thing about the socks and the belts and the fines you get if you don't the fashion police, as it were, with the NFL.
I remember working with a guy who his job was to go and look at the uniforms when the Chargers were in
Willie
town.
Buchanan.
Well, there was another guy, Niall Diggs, who
Niall did that
he
as
did it
well?
at the end, and he would say that people would try to hide these certain things on their uniform. But
the uniforms are a little crazy. There's one more NFL story that's interesting. Just a quick thought while we have a second. The NFL says it's not going to butt in, mediate at all, as far as the potential return of Tua Tagovailoa.
I don't
Like
think
the
they
NFL's
need to.
not going. Well, they're not going to get involved with their doctors and people. It's like going to be up to Tua and the Miami and his medical people, and they're going to have to decide. The NFL's not going to require him to do this, that, and the other.
Well,
in order to
that's
jump,
the right way.
jump through a hoop to play.
I'm just surprised that the NFL is willing to take on like risk and liability.
Seems a little weird. I would think that they would get involved here.
Being like, no, we don't want you to play because if something else happens, you can blame us for it. But here's a piece of paper that you'll sign your life away and you can't sue us at all.
Dolphins by Sunday night will officially be the worst team in football.
Are they going to lose to the Patriots?
I would think so. I mean, they can't gain a yard right now. Why? How are they going to win the game?
They were so. I'm sorry, Chris. Your team.
Oh, they're
in a bad
terrible
way
right now.
But they were so. Their offense was so inept on Sunday that they had Tyreek Hill running like he had 5 rushing attempts in the game, 4 or 5 rushing attempts.
Oh, they could do nothing in that last performance.
Glad I drafted Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, it's a tough day. Well, I will say this. Tyreek was open for 2 bombs in that game Sunday night or Monday night, and who's the quarterback? I don't even know who our quarterback is
Tyler
now.
Huntley.
Huntley missed him on both.
I think Tyler Huntley's going to get better here this week because he's going to have more time.
That'll help.
Because I was listening to something. Their playbook is so crazy, and they have so many different variations of base formations that he basically had like 1/10 of the playbook.
All right. Well, we'll see if the Dolphins.
Jacob
can do
says the
anything.
Jags are winless, Chris, with a crying emoji.
And the Dolphins beat the Jags, but I don't think they're better than the Jags.
Jags have had some tough goes at it lately.
Including their victory. Do you know how many seconds and minutes the Dolphins have been ahead this year?
2 minutes.
0 minutes.
Was that
0
in regulation win or end of regulation win?
The only time they were winning the Jags game was at the end on a field goal as time ran out. So they were never actually ahead during the game.
That's crazy.
And they've been behind in all their other games.
We're on week 5 now.
I'm telling you, we're bad. All right.
Bad.
Scrappy and I have a fun countdown coming up. Stick around to find out what it is on 97.3 The Fan.
On Monday's show, Division Series Game 1, Game 2 in full review on Annie and Elston.
Annie and
Your skinny friend, Chris Ello here for our friends at SD Fat Loss. They're the ones that helped me get skinny 37 pounds later. And a year later, the weight is still off. That's the great thing about it, man, because I've learned so much about how to lose weight, why you lose weight, what you need to do to keep it off, and I've kept it off now for over a year. SD Fat Loss is a learning process along with a weight-losing process. Here's the phone number to call them so you can find out more, 858-665-3211. And when you call, mention my name. Why? Because if you say Chris Ello, you'll save $200 just like that. Get yourself a free private weight loss consultation. Find out the secret to losing up to a pound of fat every day. Naturally, safely, without counting calories, no exercise even, and you don't need prepackaged meals. SD Fat Loss, it works. It'll work for you. It's a life-changing move. Do something great for yourself. Call them, SD Fat Loss. Got nothing to lose but the weight itself. All right, welcome back. Gwynn and Chris wrapping things up here. We got a little bit to go. 5:38 is the time. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, following the show tonight at 6 o'clock, the Scraby Chronicles are back on the air.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
When's the last time you had a Scraby Chronicles?
Like, honestly, probably a month, maybe.
It's been a little bit.
And we're going to, I mean, as soon as the Padres win the World Series, we're getting back to
our regular schedule.
3 times a week Scraby Chronicles until January. Then you got 5 times a week Scraby Chronicles.
Man, that'll be awesome.
I don't know.
You don't think you can pull it off?
I can definitely pull it off, but I need to come up with some more stories like frogging. Remember that, Chris? Frogging, where the people live in your attic and then they come down and steal stuff from your house.
Scare you.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a fun countdown today. Last night, Pete Alonso hit one of the greatest home runs in the history of the New York Mets, certainly. And the Mets have had a few, but it's going to be hard-pressed to beat that one, right? 3-run homer, wins the series. It was the first time anyone's ever hit a game-winning home run in the 9th inning when their team was losing, turning them into a winner in a winner-take-all Major League playoff game. It never happened before. So, that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Got us thinking about what are the greatest home runs in the history of the Padres? Today's countdown after traffic.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is brought to you by Ale Smith 394 Pale Ale. Just a couple of collisions here, guys. 3-vehicle accident southbound 5 before SeaWorld Drive. It's got the slow lane blocked. Also traveling on southbound 163 before Friars Road. Accident involving several vehicles, including a motorcycle. Everything's been moved over to the right shoulder. Ale Smith 394 Pale Ale, the official rally pint of the playoffs. Watch all of San Diego postseason action at the Ale Smith Tasting Room in Miramar with game day specials on 394 and more. Root for the home team with other fans while enjoying the game with sound. Don't miss out. I'm Kelly Danick with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's now time for Gwynn and Chris to rank their top 5 of the day.
Gonna grip and rip as usual.
But this isn't just a regular top 5 list.
I love it. It sounds sadistic, but I love it.
This is the countdown. And it starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, what do you have out there for the greatest home runs in the history of the Padres? Our countdown. Away we go with...
Oh, you want me to hit the number? I thought you were going to say the category. I was like, what?
I already gave the category. The greatest home runs in the history of the Padres.
Okay.
Gave the category. So here we go.
Okay.
Number 5. For me, I'll go first.
Okay.
I decided.
Okay.
I'm going back to October 1st of 2020. I think everybody's got to remember where the world was on October 1st, 2020. We were in a deep depression as not a country, a world, right? We were in the midst of that COVID. It had just started 6 months earlier. They somehow managed to play some baseball, but there were no fans in the stands. And the Padres made the playoffs that year.
I know.
And they were playing the Cardinals, and they lost the first game of a best-of-3. And they were losing game 2, 6-2. In the 6th inning, Mike Shildt was on his way to piloting the Cardinals to a series win.
That's crazy, by the way.
When Fernando Tatis Jr. bombed a 3-run homer and got the Padres back in the game before the dust had settled. Manny homered. Will Myers hit 2. Tatis homered again.
Yeah.
And the Padres rallied to win 11-9. And that was the one that turned it around.
The 2-2. Fernando, a high fly ball to deep left field. Car rushed. Ball going. Long on for El Nino. Won't be his last playoff appearance. Won't be his last playoff home run. Now we got a ball game right here. A 1-run lead for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Hey,
I gotta
good
tell
to
you,
hear. Good to hear Ted on that one.
That's going to be my number 4, actually.
Okay.
But I got to tell you that I was lucky enough, in a humble brag, I put this on Twitter.
You were there, were you
I was
not?
at that game, and I was at the home run that Fernando hit against the Braves to go up 2-0 in the bottom of the first inning. But what I could tell you about the first one in 2020 was that game felt bleak. It felt over.
Totally over.
It felt like there was no chance the Padres were coming back, and then Fernando hits that, Manny hits it, and then everything opened up from there.
And then they won the next night, and they won the series.
My number 5 is going to actually be this one. I mean, it's not the full highlight, but it spawned this.
Hurt the pelota big time.
And that would be Franmil Reyes basically hitting the ball to the parking lot. And I know that Chris thinks this may have been the longest home run of
I think
Petco
it's the
Park
longest
history.
in the history of Petco Park. I don't know what the measurement said. The measurement says it was Schwarber, actually.
Yes, it does.
But the Franmil one is still bouncing somewhere in the gas lamp district it was hit so far.
Yeah, I remember that one, and it was great.
And that was what Ted said after that one hit.
Hurt the pelota big time.
Way to go, Ted.
Yes.
All right, number 5, Franmil.
Yeah.
I love it.
Uh-huh.
I love him getting into the countdown.
I know, I miss him.
All right, my number 4 home run of all time for the Padres happened on October the 10th, 1984. And it helped the Padres win the only World Series game they have ever won.
High fly ball into left field. Back goes Jones. Away back. It's gone.
Sorry, I forgot to edit this part out.
That's okay.
We're
It's
waiting
still
for
fun to
Vince
remember.
Scully at some point to come back in. He's still letting the crowd do its thing.
And he's still running the bases.
I don't know if Vince Scully ever says anything.
Maybe he never did say anything again.
Wow. I don't think he does, actually, Chris.
But we'll say it for him. It was Kurt Bavacqua, of course. That was a 3-run homer. Came in Game 2 of the 1984 World Series. The Padres would go on to win 5-3. And it was the only win the Padres have ever had in a World Series game. Bavacqua was heroic in that one. He was the DH in that game. All the way back in 1984, because it was the year that the American League rules were used in the World Series. Obviously, back in those days, the Padres never had a DH.
That's true.
But because of that, Bavacqua was in the lineup, and he connected on that memorable shot.
My number 4, I already said, was the Fernando against the Cardinals. So.
All right, that moves us to number 3. It happened June 25th of this year.
Of this year.
And here's the deal. The guy's hit more home runs than anybody else in Padre history, so I had to choose at least one from Manny. And I was there, and if you were there, you know what I mean. The whole thing had happened with Profar getting hit, the benches cleared, everything, and then Manny stepped up against the Nationals.
Here's Machado. And he swings at the first pitch, hits it a mile to deep left field. What an answer from Manny. Maybe the longest homer I've ever seen to left at Petco Park. 2-0 San Diego in the bottom of the first inning, and Profar raises his hands as he rounds third base.
Yeah, that was exciting. I mean, you're not supposed to cheer in the press box, but it was hard not to after that one.
I don't know how you cannot cheer in the press box after that.
Because the Nationals, I mean, the whole thing with, you mentioned Winker, and just you hated the Nationals at that moment. And man, he just stepped up and sent it into orbit.
He really did.
On the first pitch.
I mean, Jesse, off the bat, it does definitely look like one of the longest home runs of all time.
Yeah.
But it ended up it was high. It was very high.
It was way up there, yeah.
We're gonna get Don Orsillo's call in just a second.
Oh, you got that one too?
No, I think
if you have it, man, Don Orsillo really was fired up for that home run, if I recall.
Yeah. Oh, he was definitely fired up.
Yeah. He was geeked up.
We'll find that. But my number 3 we're on is going to be another game, Chris, that you were at, and it was this one.
First pitch on the way to the right-handed hitter is swung on, hit in the air, out to left field. Connor Joe's running back, still going back, looking up, gonna go! A grand slam for Drury. First pitch he sees in a Padre uniform. 5-0 San Diego in the bottom of the first inning.
That was electric.
Yeah. I wasn't
call,
there.
Scrabe.
You were there, but I heard because this trade was so big, getting Juan Soto's
first game. Yeah,
everybody's going to. The Padres are going to win the World Series. Everything's fine.
I never thought they'd lose a game after that. First inning.
I have never heard this in my neighborhood before, but as Brandon Drury hit that, I heard cheering in my neighborhood.
It was so loud at the stadium. Honestly, other than the playoff and things like that, I never heard it that loud in Petco Park.
It's pretty crazy.
That was a good call. Brandon Drury's grand slam in the very first inning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When Juan Soto was brought in.
Number 2.
All right, number 2, we got to go back to the 1998 World Series for this one. It's a personal favorite of this show and a personal favorite of just about everybody who's a Padre fan. It happened on October 17th at Yankee Stadium. One of the greatest hitters of all time delivered in one of the big moments.
Matt Scraby forgot to grab this one.
Oh, you didn't get the highlights?
This is on me.
Right.
It
was Tony's home run off the facade, off David Wells at Yankee Stadium. Tony Gwynn. The only thing that is a little sour about this, unfortunately, is they end up losing that game because of the bad call on the Mark Langston pitch to Tito Martinez. But this home run, you got it?
It's the TV call, but yes.
TV call, it's all right. I'll take it from Tony. I think. Oh, no.
Ripped down the right field line at the track at the wall. Gone. Off the facing at the bottom of the upper deck, and Tony Gwynn goes deep with his first postseason home run to put San Diego out in front 4-2.
Oh, man, what a great moment. Chills for any Padre fan hearing that. And if I'm not mistaken, I have to ask Tony, and he's not here, Tony Jr., of course. But I thought that Tony said, they were at the game, him and his family. I thought that the tickets they gave him were in the right field seats.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
that means that home run sailed over their head.
Yeah, and I remember that his mom told him Tony Jr. wasn't allowed to talk to the fans because they were giving him stuff in
giving
the stands.
Him the business.
And then after he hit that, I think his mom was like, "Go ahead, give him the business."
What a moment that was! All right, that's my number 2.
Absolutely a moment. My number 2 is going to be this one, which
you've had some good ones so far.
Mine are the ones that have happened here when I've been
recently.
Working. Yes.
Yeah, right.
So my number 2 is actually something that really started off the whole thing against the Rangers, and that would be this.
See what he does here. 3 balls and no strikes. Runners lead at all 3 bases, and the pitch to Tatis is swung on and hit out to deep right field. It is up and out, a grand slam for Fernando Tatis Jr.
By the way, 2020 was brutal.
So bad. No crowd. No crowd noise, but that was the whole Slam Diego, right?
Yes, that was Slam Diego. Actually, when we later find out, Eric Hosmer did a podcast saying that that's when the team lost respect for Jace Tingler because Jace Tingler didn't stand up for Fernando.
Stand up for Fernando. That's right. He said it was kind of a Bush League thing for him to do, swing on 3-0.
And the team did not like it whatsoever.
Yeah, well, that was a great, memorable home run. Give Jesse credit for making an exciting call with no crowd noise, sitting 275,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Number 1 home run in Padre history for me. There's only one that stands out to me, but I know which one you chose for number 1, and I love your selection. But play my number 1 first, if you would.
Deep right field, way back, Cotto going back to the wall. It's gone! Home run Garvey, and there will be tomorrow.
Nothing beats it.
It was such a good home run. He got his number retired for it.
His number retired. Basically, for that home run, Don Drysdale on that call. The Garv to win the playoff. On October the 16th, 1990. October the 7th, 1984. The Garv. Off Lee Smith to win Game 4. And the thing that, about that game, we got another minute before yours. Garvey, in that game, what people may not remember, had already been 3 for 3. And every time he came up, he hit a base hit to tie the game. they kept falling behind, and then Garvey kept coming up and hitting him and tying it up. And then the Cubs got ahead, and then Garvey tied it up again. So by the time he came up for that at bat, he'd already been heroic in that game. And then he did the home run.
And one of the most infamous calls of all time.
Yeah, yes.
Right
there will be tomorrow. Don Drysdale telling us something we actually already knew.
Yes.
But it was funny the way he said it.
Yours
is awesome,
We
though.
do have Don's call of Manny's home run to get to as well. So
all right, we'll get to that, too,
Here's
before
my
we go.
number one.
This
Can't
is a
even
great
believe
call by you.
This still, I can't believe it happened.
Nobody can.
Camarena waiting patiently in that left-handed batter's box. Now Scherzer comes set. The 1-2 pitch is hit in the air to deep right field. Oh, no, you better believe it. It's going to go. A grand slam for Daniel Camarena in his second major league at bat off of Max Scherzer. And it's 8-6.
Oh, man. I was on pre and post game that day, and I was like, I remember, what are they doing? Why are they having Daniel Camarena hit, and then boom.
It was 8-2. The game was
slam.
over. They were going to lose to Max Scherzer until Camarena did that. Good one,
here's
all right, let's
Manny
finish
home
up
run.
with this one. To me, this call by Orsillo on the home run by Manny this year was so incredible. And to me, it just encapsulates some of the magic of this entire Padres season. But listen to how fired up Don Orsillo is as we go out.
And Manny Machado will see if they can make a pay. High drive, deep left field. Winker back at the wall. Take that, says Manny Machado. Profar's fired up, and he should be. They hit him intentionally, and then Manny hits one out of the yard intentionally. And the Padres take a 2-0 lead. How about them apples?
I love it.
That was a great
Love
call.
it. That was.
All right, good way to finish it up. Everybody, good luck. Have fun this weekend. We'll catch up with you Monday. Stay tuned. Scraby's got some more on the Chronicles. Ben and Woods tomorrow at Ale Smith,
Yes.
2:30. Padre baseball on the weekend. Let's make it a winning weekend, everybody. From all of us at 97.3 The Fan.